Lindenhurst is a village of 27,000 on the south shore of Long Island, New York. These are the people who grew up there and their stories. Everyone I know is from Lindenhurst.
I am off of Ketchum in Amityville.
Okay.
It's sort of actually my revolution in a way. I don't know if you ever. I don't know. No, you wouldn't have been here for any reason, but yeah. No, it's all right. Kids, marriage. I'm with the in-laws over here too. So.
Oh, you are.
Yep.
So what's the grand total? 5 children now?
5 kids I get in total. I guess you could say that. Yeah, it's 5 kids in total. Yeah.
How old is Grace now?
Oh my God, Grace she's an 8th grader. What the hell is that?
13, 14?
13,
Yeah.
14. Yep, 14. Insane, right?
When I was a kid, I always hated when adults would be like, the last time I saw you, you were this big. But now I find myself saying that to all my friends' kids.
Yeah, no, I know.
You wouldn't have to say it if they didn't grow.
Yeah, right.
So that's a plus, I guess. Cool. So let's talk about the Garrities.
Yeah.
How'd they end up in Lindenhurst?
How'd the Garrities end up in Lindenhurst? Originally I was born in Yonkers, and my dad was a farm. He just started working as a pharmacist, and they got an apartment in Yonkers at some point. From my knowledge, I think it's very hazy, but I think from what I know, we were living in Yonkers in like a 2-bedroom apartment, and then one day I think we got robbed by somebody in the Bronx, when we were living there, and then my dad was like, "Fuck it, I'm out of here. I'm not staying in Yonkers anymore." And then so we moved out to Lindenhurst, and then I was actually how I know how long I've been in Lindenhurst was because we moved there on my first birthday. So figure 40 years now. 40 years. Yeah.
And at that point, you're not an only child, but how many older siblings do you have?
Just my older sister Linda.
Okay. So it's just you and her and your parents moving out here when you're 1.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right, correct. Yep. And then also my aunt and Uncle George and Aunt and Grace, they moved in with us. They started renting the upstairs apartment on Lenox Street.
Okay.
And then I kind of grew up with my cousins a little bit. My cousin George and Killian. I'm not sure if you know them, Vito, but George and Killian hung out with them a lot as kids. I think George, George put me on to Nirvana, and that kind of.
I remember them.
Yeah. So that was kind of like my early childhood, and then my brother was born, and my sister, and then they took the upstairs apartment basically. So then we kind of took over the house, and my aunt and uncle moved out. But that was it. That's how it started. Lenox Street.
Right on. What are some of your first memories of Lindenhurst, or like starting school?
Starting school.
I suppose you're Allegheny?
No, Daniel.
Daniel Street.
That was Daniel Street. Daniel Street, my own. That whole song. That song sticks in my head.
I went to Rawl, and when we learned that you guys had school songs, we were like, we didn't have a fucking school song. What the hell is that? I've heard, what is the Lindy Lion roars at Daniel Street? That's something?
Yeah, Lindy Lion roars.
The fuck does that mean?
You got your own mascot too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about
what the hell is the Lindy Lion?
The Lindy Lion. Yeah, it was a song. I know Mr. Toohill was the music teacher, and he taught us the song.
Okay. You just made some shit up.
Yeah, I don't know. No, it's stuck. Like, I think kids, from here on out, I think they still sing it. I think they still go.
Yeah.
But earliest memories of school, God, it's such a blank. I'm just so burnt over the years. It just, it's like I remember myself getting in trouble in elementary school for selling things. Like I remember
candy or like
other things like fish. Like one time I brought in 3rd grade.
I got seafood.
Yeah. Well, we used to have religion at my house. We used to have religion at Like,
okay.
You know, like it was before we went to religion at OLPH, before I was old enough to go there. So it was like I don't know, I guess it was second grade, second, third. Anyway, kids were over the house. We went downstairs. I'm like, oh, come downstairs and check out the fish tank. You know, we had this huge fish tank downstairs in the basement. And then everyone's like, oh, the fish is so cool. Wow, it's awesome. I wish I had a fish. I'm like, really? You wish I had your fish? Okay. Next day in school, I wrapped up little fish in little plastic bags, like, you know, at the carnival, you know?
Yeah.
I brought him into school. I brought him into school and I started like selling them to the kids. I wasn't giving. The teacher's like, "Oh, Patrick, oh, you're giving away fish. That's so nice of you." And like she sees me. I got a handful of change in my hand, right? And she's like, "Oh, you're selling those? Oh my god!" And I give all the money back. And then, you know, half the fish died. And, but yeah, I had a bunch of those little goldfish that in baggies, and yeah, that was a memory that always stuck with me forever.
An enterprising young man.
Yeah, but then, like, after I got yelled at, like that whole mentality went away. I'm like, you know, I wish I stuck with it, but yeah, no, that was one good memory. I just always remember that. It always stuck with me. Like, oh shit, you know, I guess I was a little hustler in those days, you know. You know, Kids on the Block really influenced me. You know, the Arpinos across the street. Chris Price was a little older. My neighbor Tommy, JC at the end of the block, and my younger brother. Like, we all hung out. It was like a big crew on the block, and Nolan down the block.
All the same age too.
All around the same age, and and they really influenced us just growing up. It was like a posse, you know. We hung out and played manhunt every night we could, and got in trouble throwing like these little crab apples at cars on Wildwood Avenue behind the doctor's office over there in the corner. And oh god, it was one time Nolan got caught, and the guy was one time a car pulled over. We hit a car with an apple. He pulled over quick on the side of the road on Wildwood Avenue. Got out, chased Nolan. We all got away. No one got caught, so I was screaming, and I was like, "Oh god, we would say, oh, fuck it, leave him, let's go!" You know, I felt terrible, but yeah, no, I eventually got caught doing that too. That sucked, but that was all influenced by like the older kids. Like, we all just started doing stuff like that for no reason.
Yeah.
You also had the creek in Fireman's Park at the end of your block, right?
Yes.
So there's probably a lot of running around and being little shitheads in there.
Yeah. Oh, forget it. Yeah. No, definitely. Swimming in the creek when we had bad storms. That was a thing. Like, we would go swimming in the creek, and I'm like, that thing is so nasty. Now that I think, like, go look back at that creek.
It's definitely not deep enough to swim in at all.
No.
Right? Is there even water in there at all anymore?
I don't know if there is anymore, but they like, when a bad storm, it would flood. Like, the whole bottom of the street up to Nolan's house would basically flood.
Yeah.
And
a constant theme of this show is the amount of drainage ditches that exist in this town for some reason. Like, they knew it was going to flood, so there's just weird little creeks and fucking sumps in every neighborhood.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Yeah, definitely. And you know, those it was great back then, because I loved when they did the fair, the snails fair at the end of the block.
Yeah, yep.
That was great, because we used to sneak in through the gate and we're like, oh, we got it in, yes, and you know, getting it for free. You know?
They did you remember when they did the circus there years ago?
Well, yeah, I think that's what I meant. I think that's what I'm talking about.
Same, different thing, but same kind of deal.
Right. Yeah, that was killer. I always thought we had an edge, because like we lived right there, and then I think one time someone like locked up the gate. I'm like, oh, what the fuck? We climbed the fence. We found a way. You know,
you can't stop us.
You can't stop us. Can't stop. Won't stop. No. But yeah, no. What else? You know. Yeah, just the kids on the block really influenced us throughout the years, you know. And then when I started hanging out with Mike Lowe's and Eric and Greg, they all lived basically around the corner. You know, like they all lived like literally, we could walk through
the other side of Fireman's Park. Yeah,
on the other side of Fireman's Park. So it was just a little continuation of the block. You know, it was just another section of the block that just got bigger. You know, but yeah, no. What else? You know.
What were you doing for like extracurriculars at that point? Playing sports?
I was playing baseball. Yeah, we were both. Me and my brother were playing baseball. Yeah, that was a thing. And I loved it as a kid, man. I loved playing ball. But it stopped once I started playing guitar. It's like I started playing guitar and baseball was out the window. I'm like, fuck baseball. I'm not playing.
I think that's how it goes for a lot of people.
Yeah, that was it. I need guitar lessons.
How old were you when you started playing a guitar?
Like 13, 14.
Okay, so like junior high-ish, seventh
junior
grade,
high.
sixth, seventh. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. Like my daughter's age now, like 7th grade, 8th grade. Okay. Is when I met Mike, and you know,
so you're gonna get her a guitar, right?
Yeah.
Is she any interest in that?
Yeah, no, they have interest. They you know, my daughter Grace, she's big into she loves doing the plays in school and in the local playhouse. For years she was doing it, and so she's trying out right now. She's trying out for Wizard of Oz. So she's in 8th grade trying out for Wizard of Oz. She had auditions yesterday. I'm very proud of her. She wants to be Dorothy. I'm like, oh.
She's more following in Aunt Linda's footsteps then.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And I tell her all the time, like, listen, Aunt Linda can help you. She'll help you sing. She's like, I don't want help from Aunt Linda. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't.
For those that don't know,
but no,
she is a professional opera singer.
I know they don't understand that.
Yeah.
I'm like, my sister's a professional singer, you know.
Yeah.
And
I think I remember her in the Man of La Mancha when I was
Man of La Mancha. Hell yeah, she had the lead in Man of La Mancha. That was awesome.
Yeah, and I played the drums.
There you go.
Drums in that, and Chris Schaefer was in that too. Stephen Gaudio was in that. I remember. I believe
Jesse Guglieri.
Yeah.
Mike Giacovino.
Yeah, Mike Giacovino. Yeah.
So, did you start taking lessons right away on guitar?
I think so. I think so. I heard about Guitar Masters somehow. OPEG, you know, Guitar Masters. That's the go-to for all young guitarists from our neighborhood. You know. I think Vinny. I think your brother also went to Guitar Masters. You know.
With Mike Flint's.
Mike Flint's, yeah, he's still kicking. He's still doing his thing. The place is still there. And yeah, I loved it, man. In the beginning, it would start taking lessons, learning solos, chord progressions, you know, blues structures on the guitar, and pentatonic, you know, the pentatonic scales, and you know, those are things that, you know, I loved doing until we started playing hardcore music, and then it was like, all right, well, we don't need all that now, you know.
Right.
You know?
The thing is, though, did you study with Flint's or the other guy?
I studied with Flint's for a year.
Okay.
And then the other guy, and then the jazz guy, for a little while. There was a jazz guy who, I forgot his name. Mike would know, but there was a jazz guy that popped that was there occasionally for students like advanced students and that wanted to learn something different than rock and roll. And Mike Flint suggested it, like, hey, why don't you try doing some jazz stuff? And then I got the Real Fake book, and then, you know, we started doing some, you know, standards and learning some jazz chords and stuff. I was always terrible at soloing. It's like that's like something that you have to do forever. So it's like master, you know, soloing, jazz soloing. I mean, because I never really got a knack of it. The changing chords while soloing in different chords and
improvising.
Yeah, like I was okay with it, but like that was never my strong suit, you know. But yeah, no, and then suddenly it just faded, and we started doing, you know, our own thing in high school, guitar lessons. You know, I stopped going after a while or something. I don't know, at some point.
Yeah, for those who don't know, so Mike Flint's a local guitar teacher. He plays guitar in this classic metal band called Riot, who are still pretty big overseas, from what I understand.
Yeah.
But a bunch of our friends and my brother Vinny all studied with him and all got really good really fast.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yep. So was it like super intense working with him, or was he just like really encouraging?
Just encouraging, and you know what, Dan? Just inspiring. Just like,
yeah,
you know, like hearing him pick up the guitar and play anything you show him. Like, you know what I mean? And like, damn, like, oh, I want to be able to do that. I want to just be able to grab the guitar and play any song you hear, you know. And I know, John, I know you're good at that. But yeah, that was something that Mike Flint's, like, I was just in awe of, like, how he played just effortlessly, just, and like, and Riot and it's a funny story about Riot. He told me, I'm like, how do you? I'm like, so you know how to play that? That's so fast. Those solos you play are ridiculously fast. How do you get? He's like, well, we record it, and it takes us forever to record it. We punch it all in, and then we go back, and then we learn to play it that fast. So he goes back, and before the tour, he'll spend months just learning the solos at that speed or whatever. I always thought that was awesome. And then, years later, when I was doing sound at Revolution, I did sound for Riot once.
Okay.
And I thought that was like, I connected like all the dots at the end. Like,
oh wow, full circle.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Like I worked with Riot. I was like, this is dope. Well, Riot 5. The other Riot.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know what number they're up to now, but yeah, no, they're amazing. I used to love them, dude. We used to love them, man. Me and Mike used to buy all the CDs, and I used to love them. I used to love that vibe. It was like Ingve type, 80s metal, but like those solos in unison and
neoclassical, super melodic, harmonized shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We used to love that.
Power metal, I think they call it now. Yeah.
What is it called?
Power metal.
Power metal? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I actually worked with one of those bands the other day. You ever hear of Accept?
Yeah, hell yeah.
The band Accept?
Yep.
Balls to the wall.
Yeah. I worked with Accept the other day.
That was at Mulcahy's?
Terrible. No, the band was great, but Stereo Garden.
Stereo Garden.
So I'm now the sound guy at Stereo Garden out of nowhere. So it's
okay.
In Patchogue. It used to be the Emporium back in the day. Yeah. No, it's a fun place. I'm there three times a week, and so I'm there a lot. I'm there now, and I kind of got sucked back into the live sound. I'm doing. It's just a matter of, I work during the day, and then I work for extra cash on the weekends, and it's just a constant cycle. But it's a fun place. It's a fun place. I do a lot of different stuff there, but I worked with Accept, and they were great, but the crew was just the worst people to work with on planet Earth. They were just like, I don't miss touring bands for that reason. It's like dictators. Like
they pro dog you.
Where are you, Breeze? Where are you, Breeze? Breeze? We need this over here. Grab this. Oh, pick that up. Oh, God, it's just I don't miss it. Carrying big boxes, loading trucks at 2 a.m. It's something I never missed. But hey, listen. And, sometimes I'll take the abuse for the money.
That's what we do. So yeah, getting into high school. That's where I first met you, and I'll tell you my first memory of you was.
Okay, go ahead.
So for some reason, I didn't do band in 9th grade. I started in 10th, so I was in band with the 9th graders. So first day of school.
Okay.
I'm in band. I'm back there with my Glassjaw T-shirt on that I got over the summer.
Yeah.
Like thinking I was hot shit.
Yeah.
And I saw you played sax in the band. So you were sitting in front of me. You were wearing a Stone Temple Pilots t-shirt.
Yep.
Probably a pair of Jinkos.
Yeah.
A huge wallet chain. And like a bowl cut.
Yeah.
And I remember you looking back and looking at my shirt, and I'm like, oh, this kid's going to talk to me. But I immediately felt bad because you were really nice and you didn't punish me at all.
Oh, right.
But then we got to know all you guys, like you and Mike and Eric and that whole crew. And then you surprised the hell out of all of us. You guys started a band.
Yeah.
Negative Influence.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
I remember that.
Talk about that.
Yeah. I remember that first show that was at Fitzgerald's house. We it was crazy. Phil was playing drums. And me, Mike, Chris Schaefer, and Eric. I remember we played at Fitzgerald's house in the basement. Yeah, basement party. It was Respect is Lost, Hurt Lock, and Negative Influence. And we opened up the show, and then you guys all played, and then I remember playing again. Like I remember playing the same set twice.
Yeah. Yes. We made you guys play again.
You made us play again.
Yeah.
And
because we were just so surprised. Like, these guys are so good. I remember in particular Eric really impressing me because at that age you're usually the bass player is just kind of following the guitar.
Yeah.
He was playing bass lines and like cool fills.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this kid is phenomenal. Yeah, and
Eric was a kid who never took a lesson. He just picked it up,
Just gifted, yeah.
Just gifted with it, right? And you know, and he was great. He was also great with singing and playing. We figured out later on, you know, in A-Life, but
underrated all around. Yeah.
But yeah, I remember playing, and I remember leaving that night. My dad picked us up. We all got into the van. I'm like, yo, that was awesome. I'm like, yo, we played. Everybody loved us in there. I'm like, I'm gonna be so happy. Like, yo, we just met our new crew. Like, we just like, yo, this is it. Like, yo, we're gonna play with these guys. You know, we're gonna always hang out and play shows with these guys. You know, we love being in that environment. You know, and then we found out about the PWAC, and that was an extension of that. You know, of that crew. You know, but as far as you guys, yeah, I don't know who. I guess I met you first, and then Phil. I think I met Phil. I met Phil through my sister, because my sister, I think something with the plays or something. Phil was involved with marching band, and for some reason, Phil and Mike Egan used to hang out, and my sister hung out with Mike Egan.
Gotcha.
I think he played drums. I don't know what he did, but
yeah.
And then Phil came over my house out of nowhere.
Pat, did you graduate with Vito, or are you a year younger than Vito?
Younger.
Gotcha. And Eric graduated with Vito, right? That's why I confused that.
Yeah. And then Greg, I think.
And Greg and Phil
also graduated, right?
Yep.
But you and Mike are the same class,
me,
right?
Mike and Chris. Yeah. Me, Mike and Chris.
Yeah.
So I remember meeting Phil. Phil had a Yankees hat to the side, like this. He walked in my house, kid with a Yankees hat to the side, right? And I'm like, yo, he's like, I play drums. I'm like, yo, we're looking for a drummer. I'm like, yo, because we used to play in a garage. It was me, Chris, Mike, and Eric, just with no drummer in the garage. And I had this little amp that we used to sing through, and then I used to play guitar through like the same amp. And terrible idea. I think we blew one amp up once doing that. And we just had all these songs without a drummer. And like finally I met Phil, and then we went over to Phil's house and started jamming. And then that kind of formed a Negative Influence, and then eventually Foreshadow, I guess. Right?
Yeah. Which I played drums in. Yeah.
Which you played drums in, I guess. I don't know.
And Nick sang.
Right? Yes. Yeah.
Past guest Nick.
Yeah. Very different band if you think about it.
Very different band. Yeah. Totally.
It just kind of evolved into that. Sure. But how did you guys discover hardcore? Because you guys were all like into, you guys were wearing Primus t-shirts.
Yeah.
Had green hair. And then all of a sudden you guys showed up and were just playing like pretty legit hardcore, like, for kids who just discovered it.
Yeah.
So how'd you guys get into it?
Yeah. So, I don't even know. I don't even know who figured out, because I'm pretty sure it started with the PWAC. I think we went there once. I don't know if that was before we played. Yeah, it had to, because that influenced us to play in Negative Influence, write those songs. I think us going to the PWAC and seeing shows originally. I don't know who put us on to that though. Maybe Greg, maybe, because Greg used to hang out with the Death Kids, and he was into hardcore early. Yeah. And he was like, yo, we got to go to the PWAC or whatever. I think he brought us there, or told us where it was, and Eric's mom dropped us off a bunch of times. But I think it started there, and then we started getting demos, and and then from there, just we loved the sound of it. Then we discovered Hurt Lock. And I used to fall asleep listening to that demo, bro. Like, no joke. I used to love it. And I used to love that stuff. The guitar playing, like, I just thought it was amazing, And I'm like, there's a local band right here. Like, Yeah. And then I always thought you guys had the best breakdowns. Respect is Lost. Yeah. The most incredible breakdown. I'm like, if we could do something in between that, eventually, like later on, because I think also that kind of influenced From Within a little bit later on, amongst other bands, E-Town, Concrete, and whatever, Crowbar, but just like those beatdown hardcore bands we used to love. But anyway, so so that was like the start of it, and then I guess I forgot what was the band. What was the band Chris Schaefer went on to? What was that? Waiting Process, right? Were you in that?
Yeah, yeah.
I think that was in that same kind of after a couple of years later, right?
Right. And we had a little short-lived band in the interim too, with Mel.
Yeah, I talk about that still to this day. Yeah, I talk about
Called
that.
Ill Humor, yeah, which was kind of like more of like an old school first wave hardcore band.
Yeah,
Fast stuff.
yeah. I would show up to practice, and Jimmy would have like 3 or 4 songs already written. I'm like, damn, I gotta catch up, you know. and
talk about another gifted musician, James McAuliffe.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been mentioned on almost every episode so far. But,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Oh, 100%. Yeah, he was awesome. You know, I guess we all went our separate ways at one point because who knows? We all moved on and did different things. Well, A-Life started, right? And then it was kind of like the end of playing hardcore music, but in some respect, you know.
Yeah. So A-Life, which started as the Afterlife.
Yeah.
One of my longest running bands, but I think the band like the most people don't know about.
It's so funny, isn't it?
It's just because it was so its own thing, and like you know, we never really found our scene, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. And it's funny you say that. The one that people know mostly don't know about, and it's the one I don't talk about the most. Like I just, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, for some reason, like over the years, I talk about like hardcore more than I talk about. I don't know. I'm talking about A-Life. I always, because From Within was something that like a word, and it's like a name that I use on different things, and so I always have this like mentality. No, but still, but like A-Life was like you said, it's like forgotten like somehow, and and we had some really good stuff.
So to bring it into context for me here, I think about the time I know you. It's definitely through Chris Schaefer and all of them as I become friends with Chris in high school and stuff. And I remember you and Mike being like the other guys that played guitar that were much better than some of the people that I knew that played guitar. And I was like, what's up with these guys? You know, they're better. And
Mike Flint's
Afterlife's right, exactly. That's exactly what it was. Afterlife's first show was at the Life Team Coffee House with my first band, Group 86 first show, and we'll post a picture of the flyer with this episode for that, the Metal Fest, whatever, 2000. I want to say May 28th or 29th of 2000.
Sounds right, yeah.
Wow, I can't believe you remember that.
But what you guys had like a fucking fog machine and stuff like that.
Dude, like, oh my god,
pretty legit.
So,
yeah,
the Afterlife. So like that was our first foray into hip hop. We were, you know, we were all just playing hardcore and punk essentially at the time. But it was kind of Nolan, the singer, who was the catalyst for it, because he started really getting heavily into hip hop and he wanted to rap.
Yep.
You know,
he wanted to be in a band. He wanted to start a band, and he was like, "Oh, sing in a band." He was hung go on it. I want to be in a band. I want to sing in a band. I want to rap in a band. And then we had that one jam in your basement, and it was like, "Yo, this is fire!" Like I remember, like the first jam session.
It's when we wrote the song like this. We wrote that beat, and we were like, "Oh, this sounds like a sample. Like we could do this."
So this might be a controversial thing amongst you guys, but many people that aren't in your band think that that's just a ripoff of the D-Generation X music from professional wrestling. Are either of you familiar enough to know if that's what it is?
No. I think
it's similar, but
it is definitely not before that because I know wrestling too well to tell you that, unless you wrote it in 1996, which you could have. But I don't think my mind tells me not. I will play a back-to-back with Vito after we do this. But it's strikingly similar. I will say theirs is tuned to half a step down and yours isn't. So,
gotcha.
We're safe.
Regardless, the hook fucking bounces and the song rocks, and I'll nod my head like this and rock my fist like this and all the shit. Afterlife, we do it like
let's do it like this. Yeah, that was awesome.
And it's all about that breakdown coming out of the hook after that with the jun, 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 that part.
Yeah. And I remember like showing you. I remember because for a little while you left the band, right?
Yeah.
And then we did something with Alan Plotkin, and we did that 4-song demo, whatever,
with program drums,
with program drums. And like I remember showing you it at like I remember we went to the downtown. It was the downtown.
Yes.
I remember this specifically, like in the parking lot. I'm like, yo, I gotta show you this thing we did with a producer, this and that. And then I remember you loving it. You're like, oh my god, these are the same songs, like,
yeah.
And then from there, I think you came back into the band. I think at one point because we were getting more serious with it or something. I don't know.
I had another situation happening for a while that ended up kind of falling flat, but I did come back into the band eventually after that, and we got Mike on second guitar. So
yep.
Originally with A-Life, we were trying to do we were really trying to mimic hip hop beats and make them sound like essentially like how the Roots do it, like make them sound like samples. But once we got Alan working with us, and we decided we're going to make it, we're going to, I guess, bring the hardcore influence back into it. For lack of a better term, we're going to make it a little heavier. But it made for an interesting mix because, at that time, it was still Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park on the radio, which is essentially, just rap over metal. But with us, the hip hop was really at the base of it. It was baked into the music.
Yeah.
So I think so. So I think that's what made it a little ahead of its time, dare I say.
There's also a huge pop sensibility to everything too, though, that makes everything smooth and palatable. You know what I mean? Anyone that saw the band enjoyed the band. No one ever watched you guys and said meh,
Yeah. No, it's a good point. And we always had this mentality. How catchy can we make this? I remember me, Eric, Greg. How catchy can we make these hooks? We used to create different hooks for the same song. And we used to record it and play it.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. We used to play them back and which one is better and
But that's that's what pop singers do. That's what pop producers do. It's not unusual.
What do you think Max Martin's recycle bin is like?
Yeah. Right.
You recorded that EP. I came back in the band. We went on our first tour, if you call it that.
Yeah, it was a half a thing, and then it fell apart, and then
we bought a bus from a church.
Yeah,
and we didn't really understand diesel engines at the time.
Yeah,
so
or insurance for that.
Or
point.
Insurance, yeah.
Yep, because it costed a fortune to insure that thing.
Right.
We found out later on. That's why we didn't keep it.
Right.
But we made money off that bus. We sold it to a Raiders fan. Do you remember that? With that story?
I don't.
So what happened was, I think it was under my dad's name or something. Oh, my dad, I put my dad in charge of selling it on eBay. When eBay was popping, and he was getting into eBay, and he was selling bootleg Beatles live CDs on eBay for my uncle or whatever. So he was all into eBay, and he sold the bus for $5,000 more than we bought it for on eBay to a Raiders fan from California who they flew here and drove it back to Oakland
to deck it out to make it like a tailgate machine or whatever the fuck.
And it was and they sent us pictures later on. It was completely blacked out.
Yeah.
But they broke down 3 or 4 times on the way back. I remember they told us that they spent a fortune trying to get it back because it was kept on breaking down. But no, that actually worked out. Actually, at the end of that whole fiasco. But
well, that was, I guess, our first tour experience. We went out to, I think we went as far as Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, met some cool people. Yeah,
it was during the summer, so we went to campsites and camped out because there was enough room in the bus to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more of a mini vacation that we occasionally played a show or two.
Yeah, exactly.
On the way.
Yeah, remember that Ohio show we were supposed to go to, and the kids wound up meeting us at the campsite and hanging out.
Youngstown, Ohio. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even remember that. I remember them just running around in the grass at the campsite, just hanging out.
Yeah.
But we played 1 or 2 gigs. There was that one gig we played. It was an open mic, and we were there mad early.
Yes.
And for some reason, they didn't want to let us on. And it was at the end of the night, we're yo, you gotta let us on. I mean, you're ending the show, we didn't even play. We were here,
Yeah, that was in Delaware.
Yeah.
At some huge venue that was kind of like a like a Dave and Buster's type of thing.
Yeah.
But it had like 3 stages. Yeah, I remember the promoter was like, "Oh, you guys can come back next week, and we'll let you come in for free." We're like, "Dude, we're from Long Island."
Yeah. So
they
did wind up letting us play. They wound up letting us play.
They did, yeah.
Because we were busting their chops, like, listen, get the hell out of here. We were here all day,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was all right. A lot of experience. And I remember, didn't Nolan have to leave early? Nolan had to leave early. He had a death in the family.
He did, yeah. And then we went back, because the last show was in Jersey. We ended up going back out to go to Jersey and play that last show, yeah.
And then we wound up linking up with, what's that band from Glen Cove? Hijinks.
Who I eventually joined.
You eventually joined that band. I didn't even know that.
It became Stealing Jane, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's right. That's correct. That's right.
Yeah.
Stealing Jane. And, and I remember we just did everything with them at one point. At one point, it was like, Pat was a huge fan. Pat, the sax player, he's a huge fan of ours. He's like, he loved the album. He thought it was incredible. He was like, yo, that Blue album, the stage ain't big. Dang.
We each had a tall guy named Pat in the band, so.
Right.
Instant friendship, yeah.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I remember I'm pouring everything into that album, that Blue album, that Stage Ain't Big Enough.
So Stage Ain't Big Enough comes out in 2005. It's a totally self-produced album. We just decided to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
In our practice space.
Yep.
So I guess the question before we get to that is, at some point, did you go to Five Towns for a little bit?
Yep. So I graduated. I went to Five Towns and graduated at Five Towns with people.
Okay.
Graduated at Five Towns. Mike Michaelos, who also played in A-Life and From Within. And just for context, and me and him, like, we were like, yo, we're gonna crush it over here. We're gonna, meet everybody, and I didn't even want to go. I mean, I barely passed, but I learned the basics of audio, and I figured, hey, listen, I want to go to school and learn how to do it myself, because I feel like I hear it in my head, and I just want to be able to produce it and record it how I hear it, without having to go to a producer or an engineer to do it. So I figured maybe.
And it's also at a time where like home recording and like project studios and that thing are becoming more and more affordable to individuals. So people can set up their own shit with an interface and Pro Tools at home, where maybe even 3 to 5 years before that, you couldn't at a very affordable rate.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. And we would multi-track everything. I think, I forgot. I think we did the drums ourselves, right? Yeah, we did the drums ourselves. And, and then I remember, and then the whole plan was, hey, listen, we're going to record it ourselves, but then we're going to mix it with Alan Parkin, who produced our first little EP, and that actually worked out. I think he did a pretty stellar job on the mixes. At the end of the day, from what he had to work with, I mean, looking back on it now, half the tracks are distorted, and the snare sounded like a hi-hat track, and like there was a lot of issues with the recordings, but he did his thing with it, and he turned over something palatable, but no, we poured our heart into that. I remember like the amount of tracks we had for harmonies.
Crazy.
Creating harmonies and layers, and and oh my God, it was incredible. I loved it. But I love doing it. And then that was kind of the start of me recording people, like this is, and that was my idea. Like, I'm going to record our album, and this is going to be the start of me charging people. Cause I'm like, I want to start recording people for money, but I'm like, I want to be good first before I start charging people. So I'm like, let me do an album for A-Life. Let me do the first A-Life album. After that, I just started recording people, rappers, and I became like a rap, engineer. I guess word got out, and the studio was like in Wyandanch, so it wasn't far for them to go there and rap.
Kind of on the border there on Dale Street. So we would rehearse with A-Life earlier in the evening, and then afterwards you would have rappers come in, and you'd be producing the rest of the night.
I remember Vito coming in one day to jam. You wanted to practice. You just wanted to just play your drums, and and like, yo, you come in, you're like, yo, Bree, just still here recording people, and like I was like, yeah, man, my bad, and I don't know what happened, but yeah, I was always there recording, always there, all day, night, just recording people. You know.
And I was saying, I mean, maybe I'm jumping ahead in time a little bit, and I was saying, I don't know if it was to you, John, or somebody else, like when like trap and drill and all that type of stuff really became like the dominant style of hip hop in the mainstream. I feel like I was hearing that 4 or 5 years prior in our studio.
Sure, but it's because the people that the people he was recording are the people, like the literal shit that's coming from. You know what I mean? Though, like literally from the ground up.
Yeah, so I have to believe like the people you worked with had something to do with, you know, getting that started and getting it to the mainstream essentially.
Definitely the vibe of the moment at that time, you know, before it really popped off.
I think so. Yeah, so many projects and so many different things, and then, you know, but with you know, with that came a lot of bullshit too, like, you know, a lot of violence, and well, not really violence, but people would be in the, you know.
That's kind of what I'm getting at with saying, like, so if trap music comes from drug houses, you can connect the dots on that yourself.
Yeah, right. So yeah, and then that's the thing. It's like once I started raising my rates, like half of the bozos fell off, you know, because like, you know, only the serious guys I wanted to record and put together albums, you know, stayed, you know, and I still record some of them to this day. I still mix some of their stuff, you know, a couple guys that I still work with here and there.
Was there a guy named A1 that you did something with that was like a Native American guy?
Yeah. I
remember him.
You remember that guy?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, he used to freestyle everything. I remember he used to just go in there. He used to be a terrible writer. He could never write anything, but he was able to freestyle like nothing. Like he would just go in there and do it. But he had no structure to the song, so he would want me to piece apart his freestyle to make a song, you know. And I always found that to be very stressful.
I also remember Mantis. That was another guy.
That was another guy, Mantis. Yeah. Yeah, he was pretty cool.
Because of Jeremy or Vito, I was a fly in the wall in that room many times, sitting on the couch while the session's going on, or you guys are rehearsing or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, we used to make beats and stuff. I know Jeremy made a couple of beats for Mantis back in the day. But, listen, there's so many different people. Then this dude, Killer, I did a big project with at one point.
Kismet.
Yeah, Kismet. Yeah, he was awesome. And then Chris Shea, I showed Chris Shea for the project. He's like, "Oh, my dog's name is Kismet."
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, so much for that name. Yeah,
Maximilian.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was fun. A lot of different people. It was a blur though. There's so many. I mean, at one point, I think I had a roster of like 70 rappers in and out of the studio. You know.
Yeah. But you really got your chops up as a producer.
I think so. Yeah, 100%, man. And to this day, I mean, I'm mixing a song now from home, from an artist from Vegas who sent me files. His name is I worked with him forever. His name is Mocha Blast. He
That's the guy you did the Styles P thing with.
Yep. And
I was gonna bring that up.
And he had and he has tons of features. This guy Mocha, he tours the world now, and he gets paid to do it. You know, it's incredible. On an independent level, you know. I guess nowadays you could do that. But he sends me files left and right. He's trying to get me to move out to Vegas, which probably isn't a terrible idea, but he sends me songs, you know, three times a month to mix, and I send them back, you know. I love doing it still. So, and I can never get away from it. I'll always get calls, and I'll always say yes, and I'll always, you know, you know, it's hard for me to say no to something, you know. It's with music, you know, I always want to be involved and try to make some extra cash with it, you know, but,
so at one point does, doing live sound come into play?
So meeting Jeff McCoy. So Jeff
McCoy's is the first place you did live sound.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So meeting Jeff McCoy, he was in a band that was in the rehearsal studio across from the hall from us, A-Life studio.
What was the name of the band?
Society of My Era.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like a Limp Bizkit thing, you know. They had
shout out Amen, right?
Shout out Amen, yeah. Yeah, the guys are great, man. And yeah, so you know, I recorded something for Jeff. I recorded there like an EP for them that we actually really never finished until later on in life. Like, well, we wound up finishing it after the band broke up, but he just used he had it for himself. But you know, he loved what I did with rappers and production, and he was like, "Yo, listen, I'm opening up a club. I need a sound guy." You know, so I'm like, "All right, I'll try it." You know, and yeah, at first it was like, you know, those first few years of doing live sounds was just me hanging out, getting drunk and fucked up at a club, you know, and me doing live sound, you know, and yeah, and you know, that's the start of it. And then it led to Revolution, and then, well, Ollie's Point, really. Ollie's turned into Ollie's Point, and then Jeff sold McCoy's, and then bought Ollie's Point in Amityville, which was the old Molly Blooms too. And I started doing sound there full time almost, and then you know, and then from there it turned into Revolution. I was there for almost 12 years, you know, doing sound.
At what point do you go from being known as Pat, your government name, to P Breeze or Breezy?
So that all started like in the studio early. That started way before I met it. So that actually Nolan gave me the name Breezy. Breeze. He called me Breeze, you know, one time because I was breezing through some production, some mixing or something, you know. But then the name stuck because, you know, I was in the studio a lot with, like, you know, a lot of like gangsters, and they were, you know, I used to work fast, and they were like, "Oh, you know, it's like a breeze, you know, you're like a breeze, you know," and it was like breathe, and they used to shout me out on records. I remember putting together a song of shout outs, of just every time I got shouted out on a song, and like it's like this 3-minute clip of every single shout out ever. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I gotta show you.
You'll have to send me that.
I have to send you that. It's pretty cool. I call it the plug. It's just like my name being said in 50 different ways, by different rappers and stuff. It's pretty cool. But that's how the name started, and then Jeff was really like my mascot. You know, like he would, like, you know, he would tell everybody on the planet, you know, Breeze, the best engineer in the world, blah, 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 best sound guy, producer, forget it. You got to see him in the studio. Breeze, you know, and then that, and then all the bands that came to Ollie's Point, you know, would just know me as Breezy, you know, and then, and then now, like, it's funny because, like, I work for the county now during the day, and everybody there called me Breezy, you know. Like, you know, it's like they don't even, I mean, some people call me by my government name, but yeah, but they know me as Breezy, you know. Other than that, it's like, you know, it's like I don't even know how to introduce myself anymore. You know, it's funny because anything related to music or at the club, like Stereo Gone, when I'm at Stereo Gone, like everybody knows me as Breezy. You know, I'll never introduce myself as Pat. But it's a strange thing to do, you know. But Vito,
as someone who goes by my middle name,
similar to you, right?
I can remember visiting you guys when you lived in the house in Seaford or Massapequa. Is that where you lived?
Massapequa, yep.
And then, like being like, yeah, these Breezy and Speedy are my roommates. Was that the other guy's name?
Yes.
And I was like, all right, and neither of them are dogs, right?
Yeah, right.
So yeah, for a period of time, we rented a house down on the water in Massapequa, us and Speedy, who was the cook at Ollie's Point at the time. And it was me, Breeze, and Speed.
Yeah, that was awesome. And then it turned into Greg, Speedy, and Joe Roth, the singer from From Within. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And did Hurricane Sandy destroy that house?
Yep. Ripped it in two. Literally ripped it in two. Like the stairs. It looked like a dollhouse when you open up a dollhouse in half. And
literally last house on the block on the water, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Really nice view.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Speedy used to have this thing called the 5-minute flush, where we would open up the front door and the back door, and like if we were smoking in the house or whatever, it would just it would clean out the whole house in 5 seconds. Like all the smoke in the whole house would disappear.
There you go.
And it was I love that house. That was awesome, man. That was a great spot.
So yeah, getting into doing sound,
Yeah.
and really just kind of like settling down, getting married,
Yep.
having some kids.
Yeah.
How did fatherhood influence your life?
Um, well, in the beginning, I fought it in the beginning, for a while.
Yeah.
Um, I'm like, oh God, being a dad wasn't my, like, I don't know, like, I thought I still had a life in music and a long career as a recording artist. As at one point in the very beginning, I wanted to tour, I wanted to do sound, I wanted to do my own thing,
Mm.
um, and it took me a while. It took me to like almost losing family to snap out of me and get my shit together and put family first. Um,
Yeah.
because it's just we were young, and I met my wife Megan, which now we're married 10 years, 10-year anniversary just passed. Crazy. Um, and yeah, we had our ups and downs throughout the years and in the beginning. But it was all because I didn't put I didn't put time into marriage and family. And really once I started like putting more time and love and affection and heart into family, things just completely turned around in my life. And like I feel like things just got so much easier in life. It's like what the fuck was I doing this whole time? Why was I trying to reject marriage and family for like the first 3-4 years of my life of marriage and family, and kids.
Yeah.
Um,
You were still really young.
Still young, yeah, still young, and I didn't know what I wanted in life, and I didn't know what the hell was going. Um, God knows all the influences in my life at the time, and um, you know, but it was a pain, and then I started putting the studio second. Like I started not going to studios much. I started, and actually, it was really like once I started, like, once I left Revolution, for sure. Like once I left Revolution, it was like, because I always thought that was like my life. I thought I was gonna own Revolution at one point. I'm like, in my head, like I thought I had a claim to that club,
Yeah.
and um, once like I left there, I just it released me from like this life I could put behind me, and it was like I was like, oh my God, why did I put so much time and effort into a place that didn't love me back? It was crazy.
Were
Mm.
you there until its dying days, or did you leave before it
I
closed?
left before. I left way before.
So
I
you
left.
could kind of see the end coming.
See the end coming, and I could see the end. My end coming. Like it was just,
Right.
you know, it was like I needed something. First of all, like that was my life, and it was like every like 3 or 4 nights a week I was there, never coming home, up all night. Never had a weekend to myself or my family for years,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the money wasn't even all that. And I was back and forth in the studio at the same time. It was just a crazy life, not for a family man, and I
Yeah.
needed to leave there and get some steady paychecks in and some steady living in, some steady
Yeah.
sleeping,
You
some
need to get
some
out of that place for a little bit.
yeah, yeah, definitely need to get out of that
Be
place.
awake during the day, that kind of shit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Uh,
exactly. So yeah, so really after leaving there, getting out of there, getting with the county, the county, which is more of something that I needed to do for myself and family for insurance purpose. I needed insurance. I didn't have insurance. Like I worked doing some music. I never had insurance. I was on
Yeah.
Medicaid for a while. Um, but other than that, it was I needed a good insurance, and the kids needed to be on good insurance. And I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, let me give a shot at this 9 to 5 thing, or 7 to 3 actually is what I work at the county. But then like I gave up doing live sound and studio stuff for a while. Like it was a long time, a couple of years, and then slowly but surely, once I started settling in and getting back to family love and life, and getting the trust of my family and kids and wife again. And, I started doing live sound again. And that's where I started. That's when I met Carlos, the owner of Stereo Garden, through Dave R. Dave R. used to own Revolution at one point, Club Loaded. And he put me on to Stereo Garden with Carlos, the owner. And then, I found a new love for doing live sound at a new place that was more professional and that respected me and paid me for my time, and now I love doing it, now I love doing it again. But
so you kind of needed a hard reset.
I needed a hard reset, bro. 100%. 100%. At one point I was losing mad weight. I was, didn't have a vehicle. It was bad, So yeah, I needed a hard reset. I needed to just exactly. And get back to family, to what really matters, and that was it, and then now I feel, now I have balance in life, more balance in life.
Yeah. Seems like you're in a good place. And now that you have a steady day job,
yeah,
if the music thing dies down or you have to kind of put it on the back burner for a while, it's not the end of the world.
Not the end of the world.
You're not going to be homeless.
Exactly. I'm not going to be homeless. And now I know my worth. Now I know what I charge to do live sound is what I charge. Like, if someone asks me to do live sound at Mulcahy's, or I'm like, this is my rate. If you can pay me, you can pay me. If not, it's not a big deal. Back then I had to take it. Like, 100%. Right. I'm desperate, but that was like the life, you just, so now it's just like, I take what I take, and I take what I want when I want to take it, and that's it. I don't let it stress me out anymore. And then I know my worth of a sound engineer and how I could perform. So I'm not stressing out, which is good.
Which do you think is the better sounding room, Revolution or Stereo Garden?
That's a fucked up question. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't mean to, shots fired or anything, but
yeah, no, definitely.
It depends on the sound guy.
Yeah, no. I would say Revolution.
Is bigger room? I have not been to Stereo Garden, so I'm not familiar with the venue.
Well,
it's huge.
Well, the thing is, it's just a big room, and
so it's got the bouncy kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep. And when it's dead, it sounds shitty. You got to be close. You got to be on the dance floor, and the way the room is weird. And I remember like some people, this dude Joe that used to engineer there in the beginning of Emporium, when it was the Emporium, they used to complain about how bad it sounded there.
Gotcha.
Because of just all the reflections and how the place was shaped. But listen, that's something that I learned to just work through, and I found my my stride there now. Like I figured it out.
Gotcha.
And sometimes it sounds awesome, and sometimes like if the band is bad, it sounds bad. At Revolution, I was able to make a bad band sound good.
Don't I know?
Revolution.
You made my bad band sound good plenty of time.
Yeah, it was just like I was able to make a bad band sound good at Revolution, and then like I would hear, and it's fucked up because I would hear their record, and I'm like, wow, it doesn't sound as good. Yeah, and that was the problem I always had with local bands. Like the live show was killer, and then the album sounded like shit.
Yeah.
What were some of the more memorable artists you worked with over the years?
Oh wow, the memorable one, the Robbie Krieger from the Doors one.
Oh shit.
That was nuts. The keyboard player from Guns N' Roses. Who was that?
Dizzy Reed.
Dizzy Reed.
Yeah, Dizzy Reed.
Yeah.
Oh God, Puddle of Mud. He became my boy. The singer. What was the singer's name? I forgot.
He has a reputation. That guy.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. What else? Oh, God, there's so many, and especially the hardcore shows were just memorable to me. I just felt like
you got to do sound at those Sound Majority reunion shows, which was probably cool. Haven't seen them.
Love that.
Yeah,
love that. That meant so much to me to do that show. And even though those guys didn't know it, that meant a lot to me because we grew up with that. And you
grew up with Rob too. You knew Rob.
I knew Rob really well. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, he used to go. Every time you see me, you do that right in my face and spit all over my face.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the hardcore shows there, and I mixed for Propane. I mixed Propane, and like I remember loving Propane. Foul Death of Freedom was like one of my favorite albums, and then they fucking performed there. They're like, yo, you're doing sound tonight for Propane. I'm like, what? That's awesome. So there was a lot of cool shows. The Taking Back Sunday shows, and yeah, the Turnstile. Well, obviously the Turnstile show. We talked about that before. But no, there was a ton of them, man. I don't know. There's so many. I wanted to get a list together one day of all the bands I've actually mixed there. Who else?
There was a while when you were posting like the call sheet every night, you know what I mean, online, where you'd see who was playing at what time. So if you got that on the cloud, I'm sure you got a nice collection of a year or two's worth of that stuff.
That is true. I used to do that, and I used Instagram for that purpose.
Yeah.
I would just like it would be like something like an informative page. Like you would go there to
get information, of course.
Yeah, information. And and I thought that was the only way to use it at that time when Instagram was still early. Now it's just crazy.
But
no, I got to look back at it. But there was a Coheed and Cambria, and there was some crazy. The guys from Jackass were there.
I was able to work as a stagehand with you and Jeremy a couple times. Once with I want to say Suffocation and Internal Bleeding, because they play with Suffocation every time they play on Long Island. And then another time it was Rex Brown from Pantera's band Kill Devil Hill.
Yeah. All those bands. Yeah, hell yeah. Exactly. It was insane. What else? What band did you say in the first? What was the first show?
Suffocation.
Yeah, Suffocation. I remember doing the sound for Suffocation, and one time because they didn't have their sound guy. It was the only time they didn't have a sound guy. And not Internal Bleeding. Not Dear Side. Was it Internal Bleeding? Anyway, yeah, they loved the way I mixed my toms. Like it was like doom 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 doom, and they loved it. The metal guys loved that shit, and like the death metal guy, like super reverby, big stadium toms. Mm-hmm. And like every time I see Suffocation at it, like, yo, I love how you mix those toms. I feel like that's the only way to really mix toms, by the way. But anyway,
I agree.
But there's tons of bands. I love mixing the metal stuff too. But really the hardcore, so like for some reason, just the way hardcore is structured and the bones of hardcore music, like it's so easy to mix. It's just very. So, and very, very, I don't know, you could hear every part of the beat and the guitars and everything very easily. And it's just such an easy style of music to mix. And
I feel like you connect to that, in a good way where you can make a band sound better than they know they can sound, Yeah,
and that happened a lot. I feel like, and that's why I started, and for a while, I linked up with this dude, Mike Boner from the Mix Palace. I used to record music there a lot. And we put in a recording rig there. And I think I might have even recorded you, John, the last time you were there.
Weezer band,
the Weezer band. I think I recorded you guys, and I have maybe on a hard drive somewhere. Who knows? But we set this multi-track recorder up with SSL preamps, and we had a sick setup, and we were recording everything that came through the door. And I still have tons of recordings of hardcore bands and all sorts of shit that I would love to just release one day. Turnstiles, tons of stuff on there. And I always thought that like the live recording, if I could capture that properly, that would be something that maybe the band would want,
For sure.
And a lot of bands loved it. A lot of bands reached out and wanted to get a recording done. Also just to come into the club to record, not even on a show night, just to go on the stage and record multi-track, I love doing that. I think that was really, a great idea. It just never really lasted long enough to to really put something out. I wanted to put together like an EP or some sort of live compilation. But yeah, it never panned out. It was just the time or the money to put something out. I don't know. But no, I loved recording bands live. I thought there was something to it. You know, some bands sound really good live other than others. You know, hip hop was something hip hop something that never really sounds good live, unless you're a KRS-One. You know, which I mixed once, and he was insane live. Like, because like we go from hearing all these rappers that sound terrible live because they rap along to their vocals on the tracks. So anytime someone performs to a track with the vocals already on it, it's just bound to sound terrible. You know,
the TV track.
A TV track, you know, with the vocal, not even, or just the record. They would just rap over the record.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, and that happens a lot. Like I just mixed Jim Jones at Stereo Garden, and he just rapping over the song, like like just so corny. Like I just think it's so corny. But like KRS-One, when I mixed him, oh my god, he brought the fucking roof down, bro. I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm like, wow, this is a hip hop performance. This is what it's supposed to sound like, you know?
The Teacher. Do you remember South by Southwest?
We
went in 2005.
Yeah, well, me and you went there. Yeah.
We saw a really good hip hop show there at the Def Jux Showcase with A$AP Rock and Hangar 18.
Oh, that was A$AP Rock back then?
Yeah.
A$AP Rocky?
Not A$AP Rocky.
Oh.
A$AP Rock.
A$AP Rock, right.
Yeah, the white dude.
Yes, A$AP Rock, yes.
And I'm glad I reminded myself of this because I wanted to bring up one experience from South by Southwest. Do you remember the MySpace bus?
Yeah. No, I do remember. Yes, I remember the MySpace bus. Yes.
Yeah. So this was 2005. Like MySpace was like just popping off.
Yeah.
So they had a MySpace bus at South by Southwest, which was just a coach bus with free beer.
Yeah, that's it.
Basically. So we went in and we're drinking beers, and A$AP Rock and Mr. Liff come walking out from the back, and we were giving out demos, A-Life demos, because I think we had just recorded the album.
Yeah,
it was like a teaser that we were handing out.
That was like a point of going too, like, oh, we're gonna promote it, like, you know.
I handed Mr. Liff one. I was like, hey, check this out. We're from Long Island. He's like, oh yeah, I got my dreads done in Huntington Station. I was like, what?
Oh wow.
Yeah, but then I remember we were talking to two girls who worked for MySpace.
Yeah,
and we're like, so like, is Tom showing up?
Oh, right.
They told us he doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, remember that. Yeah, he doesn't exist. I remember them saying that.
And we were both a little tipsy at the time. And we were like, what? Wait.
Tom doesn't exist? Yeah, I remember them saying that.
They're like, yeah, he's not real. It's just the picture of some dude.
That's hilarious. I remember that. Wow, you have a good memory. Yeah, no, I remember that.
Sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's wild. Yeah, and then like when Facebook came around, I always thought these things were meant to fade away. Like I thought Facebook, it's not going to be around any much longer than MySpace was.
No, once they find a way to make money off of it, that shit isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, now it's just like part of society.
Right? There was still nothing better for bands than MySpace, though.
It was
so convenient.
Yeah, I just never had internet good enough to like run MySpace. Like I remember trying to get it on my phone, and I just cannot load up MySpace. I don't know why. It just took forever to load on my phone.
Those sidekicks didn't load quick enough.
Yeah, it was terrible. God, man. And I wish I took more advantage of like YouTube back then. Like it was only really not even YouTube was just like more tutorials, right? And like how to stuff back.
And like really bad cell phone footage of like 30 seconds of a band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now you're getting like 4K multi-angle. Crazy.
Insane.
I was saying to someone recently, do you think that kids a little bit younger than us had a much better advantage in growing up in that, like, when we were growing up playing guitar, there wasn't YouTube for you to look up to get taught that. That's why all these kids are like fucking shred tapping on 8 strings or whatever the fuck they're doing. That, you know, that's what is the new in thing with guitar heads, and they're all insane.
Oh, forget it. I mean, and not even just that, just everything. Even for me, anything I want to know, I just go right to YouTube. It's like incredible. I love YouTube, dude. I live on YouTube, bro.
Yeah,
I love it. And my kids don't understand. Like they're on the phone all day. They're like, where's the capital of the? I'm like, you have your phone on you. You're not.
I used to have to look in an encyclopedia to answer that question.
Like,
We had a whole fucking shelf of them.
Yeah, right.
And it had to be this year's encyclopedia. Because if it was out of date, it might not be correct information.
Right. There might have been 2 Germanys still or something.
Right.
So winding down now, we're going to play a game with you. I'll let John take over from here.
This is the point of the show where we play best and worst of the Hearst, where I ask you, what do you think is the best thing in Lindenhurst and the worst thing of Lindenhurst? Breaking it down by categories so far. We've always started with pizza places. So what, to your knowledge, is the best pizza you can find in Lindenhurst?
Oh God. I think it was Gino's Pizza. No. Yeah, Gino's Pizza.
You think? Okay. So you're going with that one.
Well, we grew up with La Pizzeria. On Wellwood Avenue, but I don't think they were the best.
Gotcha.
Though.
So when Gino's came to town, you were all on board with Gino's?
I was all on board with Gino's. The square slice was incredible.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, I think so. What other? There was Stella's, right?
So then the next question is, what would you say is the worst? Hands down, this is shitty pizza.
Oh my God. Well, that's oh God. In Lindenhurst, the shittiest pizza I feel in Long Island is Blue Tea Pizza in Amityville. But I don't know if Lindenhurst has bad pizza. I don't know if Lindenhurst has bad.
That's where what's his name ate before he killed his whole family, right?
Oh my God.
The Amityville horror guy.
Yeah. Ronnie DeFeo.
Like
Ronnie DeFeo, yeah.
I've never had dough that didn't taste like anything before. Like that, it just tastes like bland, no seasoning dough. I don't know.
Switch it up, Blue Tea.
Yeah. Are these supposed to be like one-liners?
No, you can go on as long or as short as you want. The next Chinese food. Best Chinese food in Lindenhurst.
Chinese food in Lindenhurst. Oh God. Whatever was in that strip of stores where my mom used to work at the laundromat, right there by La Pizza. Well, it used to be La Pizzeria. There used to be a laundromat.
Gotcha. Kurt's Deli, that whole little strip.
Kurt's Deli, yes.
Okay.
I forgot that Chinese food place. Whatever Chinese food delivered, I don't really.
Gotcha. Whatever was showing up at your house, you weren't going out of your way to get it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but now I fuck with Wawa. I think Wawa is the shit. Over in that. All right. I think Wawa is awesome.
The next question would be, what is the best hangout spot
in Lindenhurst
that you enjoyed throughout your life? Kind of vague, but
it was. I think it was definitely. God, it was. Well, we used to hang out in high school. We used to hang out at what we called the Tree.
Okay.
It was off of by where Nick Salvaggio lives. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's by Stephen Gordia lives back over there. It's like in that area. We used to go on a side street and we used to smoke and drink and nobody used to bother us.
North Queens kinda over there.
North Queens area, correct. Yeah. Yep. We used to have a spot there called the Tree. We used to go there and hang out all the time. And I thought that was dope because that was our own little spot. Nobody knew about it. You know? And that that little hole in the wall that we used to play shows at all the time. What was that on Lindenhurst? Why am I drawing
Dr. Shays?
Dr. Shay. I don't know why I forgot that. I've the worst memory. Dr. Shay was the best, dude. Dr. Shay was the
Of course, yeah.
Dr. Shay was
legendary.
Remember a legendary show you played with Common Correct one night.
That's right, yeah.
I'll never forget that.
Rick to Life showed up and his band didn't.
Oh, no.
So I played 3 songs, I think.
Probably not the first time that happened.
Right, yeah. Usually Rick to Life never shows up, right?
I guess the next question would be, what is maybe not the best, but your favorite band from Lindenhurst?
Favorite band from Lindenhurst?
Doesn't have to be of any note. Could be, your friends, whatever. Just the band that you think influenced you the most or you enjoyed seeing the most or...
From Lindenhurst, the band I enjoyed seeing the most. I tell you, I used to love Hurt Lock. I think Hurt Lock was the best.
There you go.
Me. And then, I don't know. I think other than that, I don't know, is I guess solid majority is Lindenhurst.
Definitely.
Right? Yeah, some does. I love seeing them too. But I was never just I love Silent Majority, but I was never just a huge fan as I was to our friend band.
Of course.
Friend,
No, and I get the Hurt Lock thing in the same way that like me seeing The Waiting Process or From Within, you see people close to your age doing it. It makes you feel like you can do it. You know what I mean? You're just that much closer to it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? And then once I heard Jeremy's first band, what was that? Unsound?
Yeah.
I thought they were dope too. Like I heard them, like, damn, what are we doing wrong in A-Life?
We could, you can't mention A-Life without mentioning Unsound, who's basically a year or two younger than them, doing the same kind of stuff,
Same kind of stuff. And I really enjoyed them.
Both singers that want to do something like the Roots because they both love the Roots,
Yeah, no, definitely, and I was inspired by them, and Jeremy's playing on there too, and just not Questlove, Sense Wonder,
Chris, hell yeah,
and his flow on there, the deep flow, I thought that was dope, but yeah, no, that was always fun seeing them too play,
Lots of A-Life Unsound, fun backyard shows and stuff over the years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. But nobody was better than From Within. In my eyes, that's like From Within.
You heard it here.
There you go. Right. So it's settled.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
So our closing question.
Yes.
If you were to describe Lindenhurst to somebody who's never been there, what would you tell them?
Describe Lindenhurst to someone who's never been there before. A place to meet great friends, lifelong friends, and a place you could grow up without struggle. Really, it's just I tell that to people all the time. We could go keep the front door open without nobody bothering us. All day. It wasn't. We could leave the house and not lock the doors, and I could ride my bike anywhere I wanted to and not get jumped by any kid. I don't know. It was just like a place where you could find find good friends and live life without problems. That's what I could think of. That's all I could say about Lindenhurst.
All right.
And enjoy. I thought going to school in Lindenhurst was something to be desired. I thought we had a great high school. I thought I had a great experience in high school.
We brought this up with a lot of people, but there were a lot of like fun elective classes you could take in high school.
Yeah, especially Mr. Tracy's class.
It's a big one with everybody.
I used to love Mr. Tracy, and he tried hooking me up. He tried, because me and James McAuliffe were in his class, and we were both trying to win a scholarship to go to I don't know what the hell school that was.
NYIT. James did win it.
James did win it because he submitted. Yeah, he wasn't a bonehead, and he got his project in before the deadline. And I remember Mr. Tracy tried getting my project in for me. He's like, I'll go print it for you and I'll try to get it done and submit it for you. And he never got it in or something like that, or I missed the deadline. And then I found out James got the scholarship and he got it. So that was awesome. But no, I love that class, man. It was awesome making T-shirts, and
hell yeah.
I remember seeing like Silent Majority shirts, Glassjaw shirts on them. Yeah. They used to make those there. That place he was awesome. He was awesome.
So there you go. Just like MySpace, Lindenhurst, a place for friends.
Yeah,
that's right.
Led by a man who is real.
Thanks so much for coming on, buddy.
No problem. Yo, good shit, man. Thanks for having me on, dude.
P Breezy, bring it back. Yo, Breezy, I got him. Chillin' with P Breezy. Breezy. Yo, Breezy, good looking out on this one, man. P Breezy. Good look for this one, Breezy. Breezy on the track. Breezy. Yeah, Breezy in this motherfucker. P Breezy.
I meant to change my microphone because right now I think that's what I forgot to do.
There it is.
Does that sound good? Okay. Because
yeah.
I actually have like a good microphone. It just wasn't connected. So there we go.
Now you sound as good as you look.
I'm going to leave that one alone.
So let's get into it. How did the Reynoldses end up in Lindenhurst? What's the origin story?
Wow. So I guess, really simply, just like a lot of people who have ended up on Long Island. My parents, they grew up in Queens, and they got married and they wanted more space. I'm pretty sure they got robbed twice living in Queens, in their apartment, and I know that like definitely like fueled them to move sooner than later. I think they looked at a couple different towns, but I think ultimately they found our house in Lindenhurst that I grew up in, and really was my house until I got married. So yeah, that's it. It's Lindenhurst. I don't think there was any cool story other than, they were looking for more space to raise a family.
What did your folks do for a living?
My dad worked for the phone companies, so AT&T, which changed names like a million times before it became Verizon. And then, or I should say, excuse me, AT&T when he was in the city, and then when he was on Long Island, it was New York Telephone that became all the.
We're all connected.
Yeah,
I remember those commercials.
You remember that? And then it was
Yeah.
Bell South, I think, and then it was Verizon, and so by the time he finished up, he was working for Verizon. It was a splicer. He fixed the telephone lines. And my mom was a teacher, like a special ed teacher.
You're born in 82. What year did they move to Lindenhurst?
I think 80 or 81.
Okay.
I came along pretty quick after that.
And your sister a year or two after that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Daniel Street.
Elementary School. Yep,
Yeah.
where the Lindy Lion roars.
Yeah.
As the song
I
says.
brought that up to Pat because I said I went to Raw. We didn't have a song at Raw.
Did any other schools have a song? I wonder.
I don't know.
All PH didn't, I don't think. I mean,
no hymns. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I was going to say the Catholic Church had many songs. So
right. Yeah, exactly. You co-opted a whole bunch of them. But
right.
Did I ever tell you that I did go to all PH for nursery school?
Oh,
That's a true story. And I don't think this is the reason I didn't go there for elementary school, but I did have like a bad incident where I was behaving less than desirable and may have said some unnice things to a priest.
Oh no.
Wow.
That was like the peak of my badassery for lack of a better term. 3 years old.
They forbade you from going there, or
no, I don't think that was the case. But
But it was kind of like, okay, we didn't want that kid anyway.
Probably, it was definitely that. And I think I don't think my mom was planning to send me to Catholic school, but she was probably like, if she was like, if there was any thought, like it was like, all right, we need to get this kid out of this environment because he's going to corrupt everybody.
Wow, interesting.
It would have been cool though. It would have been funny, a funny alternate reality if we had ended up in elementary school together.
Yeah, I would have known you way before.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of your first memories of just Lindenhurst being a kid, first days of school?
Yeah, I think I remember walking to school vividly. I remember like loving the playground at Daniel Street and like thinking that was like massive. I remember being super scared of the fact that the high school was right behind it. So
older
like
kids,
when
teenagers,
like when literally like when we were out at recess, like kids were like walking by smoking cigarettes and stuff, and that
you
just,
could
like,
see them,
or like when they were cutting class, like we were singing. I don't even know if I understood
the way I'm scared
time.
of teenagers now. I was scared of teenagers then.
Exactly.
Well, OLPH was right next to the middle school, and those kids are probably worse.
Well, the kids that were cutting class and smoking in middle school were definitely worse because they got their start early. So
they started early, yeah, exactly.
So their latchkey childhoods were already beginning.
Yeah, and we were the metalhead kids. So I would be out there in my leather jacket,
right?
Like thinking I was badass, and then oh my god, we got into a lot.
Yeah,
but
I definitely remember that like freaking me out.
Which was a better playground, Fireman's Park or Daniel Street?
Ooh, I mean, definitely Fireman's Park, I have to say.
Right.
Yeah. I in a weird way though, I don't have a great memory of what it used to look like because it changed so much over the years.
It's completely different now, so it is very hard to like where the actual apparatus is not where it was previously.
Yeah. I mean, it is cool because I've been down there with my kids. It is they've
Yeah.
done a good job, but some of its
Definitely.
charm is gone.
Yeah, very up-to-date, modern, safe playgrounds, for these times. But there's no bushes you can hide in along the little turn there, that used to be there.
Great for hide and seek. But I was gonna say that there's probably no like swings like tied a million times around the top of the swing set.
Definitely not.
Which was often the case at Fireman's Park.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. So what were you getting into as far as like extracurricular activities, sports?
I tried like everything, man. When I was a kid, like that's always been my personality. Like I've always wanted to do everything and wanted to like I was like fully immersed in it. So, I went through a skateboarding phase in probably like 4th or 5th grade, and got into the different kinds of bikes, like, the dyno versus mongoose discussion debate. I pretty much always liked comic books. I even had like a subscription, which I haven't heard of too many people that had that, like a subscription to Amazing Spider-Man comics. But that was mostly, and then like, sports as well. I wasn't very good at them, but I played them.
Little League?
Yes, National League.
Gotcha.
Not to be confused with the American League, which had that very close fence. So I remember going you're an American League kid, aren't you?
I am.
I remember like American League kids coming to school and be like, I had 18 home runs this season. Like 18 home runs. We play at Kinley Field. If one kid hits a home run that year, it's like the most amazing thing. Like,
so that's funny that you went to Daniel Street, because some kids that went to Daniel Street did play in the American League.
I think, I don't know how that worked. It must. I think
it's north of Frank Street is honestly what it is. Okay,
you're probably right, because I definitely remember. I can remember John Ryan coming into school and being like, I had like 2 home runs in this game, and I'm like, how are these kids hitting home runs? I just thought you guys were all incredible at baseball.
Yeah, Billy Kolstad was the first kid to like hit a home run when we were very, very little, and everyone was like, whoa. Yeah. They gave you a free hot dog and chips at a town hall if you hit a home run.
That's a good deal. If you hit one at Kinley, though, you should get hot dogs for life.
Right.
So yeah, moving on. Growing up, so you grew up on Lenox Street,
yes,
along with Pat Garrity, Breezy.
Right. We talked to him last week, so he had mentioned that fair amount of people around your age on that block.
Oh, we had such a good block growing up. They honestly, it was such a cool thing. It was always kids outside riding their bikes. It makes me sad that like my kids don't really have that and haven't really had that experience, because like every season, football in the snow, Halloweens were awesome, all those things. Summers,
you had
obviously.
The benefit of Lenox being a dead end with a little creek at the end of it as well. So there's a lot of mischief to get into with all of those things.
Yes, yet another thing that's not there anymore. That creek is not there. It's so sad. It's just weeds and it's dried up. But yeah, it was like we could cross over the creek, jump over the creek to get to Fireman's Park. We didn't have a care in the world riding bikes and playing manhunt all over the block, because very few cars went down there, and if they did, knock on wood, they usually went slow. And we had older kids. I mean, Pat is one of 4, so he had an older sister and 2 younger siblings. So like pretty much all the age ranges were covered. We had some epic games of manhunts for sure.
And for those that don't know, manhunt is just hide and seek that covers more ground. You just call it manhunt so you don't feel like you're a baby playing hide and seek.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's what I would. I can't think of any difference. I guess you play with a base. I don't know.
And so, like, you disregard the law because you hide in people's backyards and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe, it gives you, it basically gives you a right to trespass.
There was also one called Jailbreak.
Oh, no.
I think, like, if somebody had a deck that was the jail that everyone you caught went into, and then like someone could come and like jailbreak and like everyone would scatter.
Yeah. Another popular game when we were younger was Suicide, which was like a weird version of handball where you just try to outrun a outrun the ball to the wall while someone's throwing at it, and if
literally
it beats you,
the
they
only
get to
part I
throw it at
remember.
you.
Yeah, the only part I remember about that is just like being against the wall and being just
And then
nailed.
Being pegged.
Always by some older jock who.
It's an excuse for an older kid to wail a ball at your back.
I'm just playing a game, man. I'm just playing a game. That's
man.
Yeah, it's always like the star pitcher wheeling a bar like 90 miles an hour.
Exactly.
Yeah. So growing up with all those guys, you guys all get tight, and like, you know, as we get into high school, we get to know all you guys, and you're all getting into music and whatnot. So what are your first memories of that, as far as like discovering like the local music scene and all that's going on like in the mid 90s?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it probably has a lot to do with Pat, actually, so that you had him on the show last time. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, I always thought it was awesome that he like picked up a guitar at an early age and learned and taught himself. I never had like the real wherewithal or dedication to like do that, especially at that age. But he did
play saxophone in school though?
I did, but you know, it was like
there's a burgeoning ska scene.
Yeah, I mean, little did I know, right? I mean,
right.
It could have been more with the ska scene, but yeah, I guess it started with just you know, thinking it, you know, watching him play and you know, being into the same kind of music as him. We did everything together. So like we were on buses together, we played together outside of school, and then like as we got older, you know, we continued to hang out, and you know, I'm pretty sure we carpooled for like middle school and stuff. So we always like a lot of like my musical taste did come from him. I will say that. And then I just remember in probably middle school, them talking about the PWAC. Honestly, that's probably where it all started. You know, when I say them, you know, Eric, Greg, Mike, who would eventually be in our band. I mean, Mike was in my grade, so I knew him, but they would come to our block. They were kind of like honorary members of the Lindenhurst, of the Lennox Street gang. And
right.
Yeah, they were talking about the PWAC, and I actually, my parents didn't want me to go at first, just because it was just like, I mean, I didn't understand it at the time. Now I completely get it. Like, you know, random, you know, a building, you know, warehouse like building where there's going to be loud music. Why would they let us go? But
and you had to walk down 109 to use the payphone if you need to make a call. So.
Yeah, and
probably and way beyond capacity, like a huge fire hazard.
Yeah. There was just no like, you know, as a parent now, like looking back on it, there was no like really way for parents to like verify that it was legit, like, and who's running this thing or anything. It just, but to us, it was like everything, like that's where people are at. And it's going to be awesome, and there's going to be all these bands that, you know, I began hearing about. But anyway, I made my dad feel bad enough that he let me go, and and that's really how I got introduced to the scene.
What are some of the first shows you remember going to?
I remember going to a Vision of Disorder show. I think that might have been my first show. Either that or like a more of like a punk kind of like pseudo convention where like I went to something where like bands were playing, but it wasn't really a show, and they had like tables set up all over the place.
Yeah, it was like a fair that they were putting on. The bands were in the back room.
Yeah,
I remember they had like a bounce house. It
was during the
something.
day.
Yeah,
I think that was the first one I went to because, you know, my dad, I guess, felt better about it being during the day, so he like let me go to that.
Safer.
Yeah, nobody could do anything bad to me during the day, but to like test the waters, and I think I got a bunch of patches and stuff and thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure Vision of Disorder was my first show, and I don't even think I enjoyed it. I don't think I really liked them all that much, but I probably said I did.
They were huge at the time.
They were.
Like, you know, for a local band, it was like, wow, they got signed. And
but to your point, John, like at some point I heard a ska band and that blew my mind. And that really like hit me. You know, probably Glass Joe was something I enjoyed too at one point.
I was thinking in preparation of this, when do I recall meeting you? And before we even really talked to each other, my summer between 8th and 9th grade, I was at Adventureland with my family. We won tickets to some sort of WBAB thing where they only had Adventureland open to people that had tickets to this event. And I was walking around with my sister, and I had a Scofflaw shirt on, and you were there with Chris.
Okay.
And we kept on seeing you.
I'm tracking.
And my sister was like, I recognized him from school, and you saw my Scofflaw shirt, and you guys were like, oh, hey, nice shirt. And then we just kept on seeing each other and like waving at each other. And then we saw each other in school and eventually started talking. But that was my first. Yeah.
It was like, I totally, I mean, I don't remember it exactly like that, but I totally believe that it was something where we just kind of like, I probably knew you liked wrestling too. Like I probably saw you wear like a WWE shirt or something at some point, and
this
or
is
WWF
before
shirt.
I was even in high school with you, so I don't think you knew anything about me. You and Krishka saw me in a Scofflaw shirt, and maybe you recognized my sister from the high school. She was like, "Oh, those guys go to Lindenhurst."
Gotcha.
I was like, "Oh, okay," and you guys were like, "Oh, cool shirt."
After that, it became something where like we just
for
knew.
sure. Yes.
Yeah, that's the big signal back in the day. Oh, that guy has a shirt.
Yeah.
He got that shirt at a show. Like there was no.
Did we just become best friends?
Internet. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's what we did to you, Vito, when we just saw you with all this cool band shirts and stuff when we were in ninth grade coming to band, and me and Pat were all over you like white on rice.
Yeah.
And this poor soul's thinking, oh, these two geeks.
That's hilarious. I do discuss that with Pat.
Chronologically speaking, if that's the summer of 97, that brings us until that picture in October of 97 of all of us at Deja, which now you're the second guest on the show from that picture.
So that's October of 97. So that would have been my sophomore year.
Right. We went to go see Step Lively and Blue Beats at Deja on a Friday around Halloween. And that's the picture with me, you, Derek, Chris,
Classic.
Sean, Nick. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a quarter century old now.
Those shows were really my favorite.
Deja shows were the best.
They were the best.
Yeah.
By far.
I can remember standing on line outside with you, making fun of every duder that walked by, calling dudes duder.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do use that to myself every once in a while.
Uh-huh.
Look at this duder.
Yeah, or dudeser, I think.
Yeah.
Dudeser, yeah. So for those who nobody knows,
yeah.
I mean, I have to explain this.
The pranks and ports of it all.
I mean, 90% of what I find funny is something that only me and Chris Schaefer really know the true meaning behind. But
I think that's everyone in Lindenhurst, and it's individual to that specific person and Chris.
Exactly.
So no one besides those,
Totally.
There's a bit of a Lindenhurst secret language that goes around.
A dudeser was somebody who kind of stuck out like a sore thumb at like shows and things like that. Who it's so hard to describe. I mean, they were trying very hard to be cool, which looking back, like, could easily describe me like
every single teenage kid that's there. Yeah.
Right.
But
it would be like an entire outfit bought at PAX on like a Billabong hat.
Yeah, they were
like
the mannequin
necklace.
Yep.
They were just uncomfortably trying too hard. And that's a good description, Vito.
Yeah. But everyone has to start somewhere.
Right.
Yeah. But you could be a dudeser, but you could be a good dudeser too. So
yeah, that doesn't mean they're a jerk.
Right, exactly.
It's not character.
It's just you're a little culturally wet behind the ears.
Exactly. Yeah, you're basically, I guess it would be like a noob.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, at this point now, where does hip hop factor in for you musically?
I think I enjoyed a lot of the music from the scene, from the hardcore scene, the punk scene, the ska scene, like especially the ska scene. I still have music that I listen to today within those, but I don't think I ever like really like latched on like other people did to that. Like I wasn't completely like comfortable and in my zone with that. And I think around 11th grade, probably from shows, I began to like kind of learn that like there are actually some people who like punk who are actually into hip hop, but it's not the hip hop you hear on the radio. Or like there is like, there's hardcore fans who, also listen to, artist X, Y, or Z on the side. And I was like, that's interesting, because I always thought they were like so opposed. And I just began to discover like the underground hip hop scene. And that just blew me away. It just blew me away, because it was so entirely different from what was like popular hip hop at the time and from what we'd hear on the radio.
It was the punk rock of hip hop.
It was the punk rock of hip hop.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, again, I'm not like, it wasn't like me. It really wasn't anything I could resonate with, like as a person, as like a suburban white kid from Lindenhurst.
Right.
But I just thought it was cool. That's all it really comes down to. I just thought it was cool. And I thought like these guys are like actual poets and they have something to say. They're super talented. And I guess like deep down inside, like I really always wanted to like hip hop. And this was my excuse to like it.
Yeah. And myself as well. I was getting into that at the same time. Shout out Dave Azer. Dave Azer made me a mixtape at one point. Me too. And yeah, okay. That was that got me going. Yeah, for sure. Did. That got me down the rabbit hole.
I mean, he literally just recorded Hot 97, but he picked some good songs.
Yeah, whatever works.
What a weird thing that like kids would never even think of like doing these days, like recording the radio. Like that's something I did.
And when the DJ talked a little too long over the song, you're like, come on.
Yeah, you're ruining the song.
I need a clean copy of this.
Yeah, it's true. I don't even know if they do that nowadays, because it's almost like they did it on purpose to prevent you from getting a clean copy.
Yeah, right.
That's why they put their drops in there.
Yep.
Yeah. Funk flex. Yeah. But okay, so at this point now, as someone who likes to try things,
exactly,
you wanted to get into rapping.
I can't just like that was always me. I couldn't just like be into it. And to be honest with you, even with ska, like Chris and I always tried to start ska bands, like because we couldn't just be fans of the music. We had to do it. So yeah, I began writing rhymes. I began to write them down, and I was something that I did practice, I guess, more than most stuff. And I did write a lot. And I did have like a lot of rhymes written down in notebooks. And it became passable enough to actually do something with it at some point.
Yeah. So we got all our hardcore friends together and, we started experimenting with making hip hop.
It came out like a time, I think, that was just perfect for all of us. 'Cause like, you guys had been in hardcore bands or punk bands, you had kind of done that. I think you guys were looking for something a little different.
Yeah.
I hate to say this because I did not want to be anything like what most people thought of when they thought like rap rock or like hip hop rock.
Which was burgeoning at the time.
But it was burgeoning at the time. But like, I can honestly tell you, at no point did I ever say like, I want to be a band like Limp Bizkit or Linkin Park. And it was like nails on a chalkboard when I would tell someone I'm in a hip hop rock group and they were like, oh, like Limp Bizkit. It was painful to hear that. Yeah. Like in my mind, the Roots or like, Outcast with live instrumentation was always my goal.
Well, that brings us to another turning point for us, was seeing Black Eyed Peas for the first time.
Yes.
Pre-Fergie, first album, Black Eyed Peas.
The original Black Eyed Peas, R.I.P.
With the other girl in it that left the group?
I don't think there was a girl.
No, the second album has had one. Gotcha. I forget her name, but she wasn't in that first album.
Gotcha. So you saw them pre that. You saw them on the first record.
We saw them the first record at not Lollapalooza. What is it?
Warped Tour. Warped Tour 99.
Warped Tour 99.
Randall's Island.
Is that the one Eminem played too?
It was. And we were very much more excited to see Black Eyed Peas than we were to see Eminem.
And if you remember, Edna's Goldfish also played that.
They played that show. Blink-182?
Yes. With a few different drummers.
That's right.
And I remember Edna's Goldfish set actually overlapped with Black Eyed Peas.
And we were like, what do we do, right?
Yeah.
But I think we went to Black Eyed Peas.
So here's my funny memory of that day. For those who weren't around back then, there used to be Hare Krishnas at shows. And especially like big shows like Warped Tour, they would be everywhere and they would try to they would come up to you and try to sell you books. So I'm there. I had this like beaded choker necklace on that I probably got at Sunrise Mall in like a kiosk or something. And every 5 minutes I would hear, "Hey man, nice necklace." And it would be a Hare Krishna dude, trying to talk to me.
That's hilarious.
So fast forward to later in the day, watching Edna's Goldfish, I'd been approached like a dozen times by these Krishna guys. Edna's wraps up their set. I hear Black Eyed Peas playing in the distance, right? So now I'm running across Randall's Island, kicking up dirt, coughing and sneezing, right? And I hear out of my right ear, "Hey man, nice necklace." And all I could think of was that scene in Airplane where he punches the guy out who's trying to sell him the flowers.
Oh man, if only.
But anyway, Black Eyed Peas were dope.
They were awesome.
And that was my first time seeing like live hip hop done like that.
Yes.
It was just, it blew my mind.
The Beat Pharmacy. That was their live group.
Oh wow.
The Beat Pharmacy. Yeah. That's cool. I'm glad you brought it up, because honestly that's probably what like made me think like we got to do that. Like this is what I want to do. I want to rap with a group of live instrumentation, which really was not being done before. I wanted live hip hop is what I wanted, not rock with rap lyrics over it.
Right. Which was most of what was happening at that point,
exactly.
Aside from the Roots.
Yeah.
That was really the only other thing. Cool. So yeah, we started messing around with that. And like in the beginning, we were really like trying to mimic like sampled beats, like to the best we could. We did a lot of covers back in the day, like a lot of medleys of covers of things that were on the radio. And like, we really like with our guitar, bass and drums, like tried to like, as best we could mimic the exact sound of,
and I love that
beat.
Part of me like obviously would have, rather just nailed it with originals, but like when we did those covers, it felt like we were doing what I had hoped we would be.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
It was fun, and it was surprising to people who watched us. Like it
was a bunch of white kids playing like these like really banger hip hop songs, like and making it our own. But like
I'm gonna ask you this because I think this fits in at this point. I asked Pat the same thing, and I was trying to find a way to tie in professional wrestling to this. But is the hook on Like This the D-Generation X song?
I'm definitely not on purpose. It might be subconsciously though.
You can hear a resemblance though, right?
Absolutely, 100%. I didn't write the music, so
of course. Bow to the masters.
That's right. People were saying the same thing about "She's Got Me," that it was the Sex and the
City theme, just because it's any sort of Latin sounding deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I've also heard like really accomplished musicians say there's really no such thing as an original like melody nowadays, because everything's been done before and something is always going to sound like something.
The D-Generation X, that song came out at the height of DX popularity, so that's the
and you probably could literally like mesh the two, and they would like they would go together.
We're gonna try and do that, I think.
You should.
Break it down. D-Generation X.
That's the way theirs goes. Ours goes.
Pound your chest like this. Pump your fist like this. Nod your head like this. After life we do it like this.
It's totally different. It's a rap song.
I have to mention that one of my favorite events I've ever been to in my life, I went to ECW at Freeport High School with Nolan and my father in March of '99, and we sat in the front
tell
row,
that story all
amazing.
the time. Am I remembering it wrong, or did like Bubba Ray Dudley really like fall like right into our laps practically?
One of them did, and I think Devon might have called the wrestling team the N-word or something like that.
That is such a great story because
we met New Jack in the parking lot.
Well, we met a bunch of them in like their signed autographs. And it was just funny because I'm pretty sure we got autographs from Tommy Dreamer and Nova, and your dad was with us. And he actually, after the show, like goes up to like the referee or something, was like, my son and his friend are write for the school newspaper, which was true. We did. Yeah. And they want to do like an interview with some of the wrestlers. Yeah. And like we got brought backstage to meet Tommy Dreamer and Nova. Yeah. And it was like really awkward because it was like we already met them. And we didn't really interview them for the paper.
No,
we
didn't
just
ask
kind of
questions
stared
at
at them.
all.
We had no questions
These
prepared.
big sweaty guys that just wrestled.
Do you remember the main event of that show?
I don't off the top of my head.
I want to say it was RVD versus somebody, but
I think it was RVD versus Lance Storm.
sounds right.
Yeah.
Good times.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're getting into the end of high school now, and you, as somebody who's doing many things at once, you go away to New Paltz to college, but we're still doing the band,
AKA New Lindenhurst.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of Lindenhurst people
15
going to New Paltz at the time.
kids
Specifically in your
my
grade.
year.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was either 15 or 16 of my fellow graduates ended up there.
They just gave you guys a whole hall of dorms and called it
I won't
New
comment on
Lindenhurst.
how many actually graduated, though.
Hey.
You are one of them, though.
I am one of them. But yeah,
And,
it was we stuck with it with the band.
Yeah. So yeah, start recording. So I actually left the band for a minute, and you guys recorded without me. You recorded that first EP
That's right.
with the producer Alan Plotkin. What was that experience like? Because I was not there, so I don't know.
I don't know. It was like it was feeling like we were doing something really cool and at the same time being swindled. I mean,
Alan's a fast talking, high energy guy. He's a character.
I never felt good about Alan Scott Plotkin. I don't know about you, Vito, but I don't necessarily think he was a bad guy, but I don't know.
He had motives that weren't necessarily upfront somehow.
He was a little bit like trying to rekindle his career, and I think
Exactly.
he latched onto us a bit.
I think he needed us a lot more than we necessarily needed him. And that's and I think maybe, to your point, Vito, he was a little bit out of the game. I mean, I remember him making some pretty questionable decisions for us. I remember when he had us bring in a singer who just didn't fit our style at all. A female singer, a female vocalist. And I was so bummed because we had my cousin's girlfriend at the time singing with
Heather,
us.
yeah.
And I thought her voice was perfectly fine. But it felt like he needed to call in his friend to do a favor, and we had to pay her. And I just didn't think her voice matched our style at all and what we were going for. But at the same time, he did give us a very, very quality recording. I mean, it was certainly better than anything we could have accomplished on our own at that point. Pat wasn't quite ready to record yet. I don't think that quality. He was still learning. So
at that point, it seemed like there was a jump in your songwriting, and that I don't know if Alan had anything to do with this, but the way the songs were put together, it seemed to be more of the three of you working together singing, you, Pat, and Eric, instead of just you on a lead vocal and that kind of thing.
You know what?
Was that as a result of Alan?
I will give him credit for that. You're absolutely right. He definitely suggested that more of us sing, and it was one of the best things we could have did. Because
even just backing each other up here and there, you know what I mean?
We didn't even know Eric had a voice. Yeah.
Yeah, he surprised everyone.
Eric I'm sure he still does, has an awesome voice, and it added a lot of layers. It allowed us to do things that we couldn't have done if it was just all up to me. So.
And you guys sounded so full, as a live band, as you continue to play live, one of the tightest bands possible. I've seen you guys practice and play over 100 times, I'm sure, in my life, but you only got better and stronger with those elements added.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I definitely, I think that was one thing that, put us against anybody, whether you were a fan of the musical style or not. We were tight as heck.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a few things we glossed over in the Breezy episode. Number one was the video we made.
Yes.
Petty from Mass.
Speaking of something we probably should have did on our own and not had someone else direct.
Yeah. But, it was fun.
Let me ask, as an outsider on that experience, did you pay someone to make that treatment? That was someone else's idea?
I don't even remember the connection, but somebody knew this guy who
Somebody Pat's dad knew, right? He was like another pharmacist.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
I just remember
That's who you go to make a video. A pharmacist.
I mean,
remember we recorded it in the diner, and it was like his brothers or something.
Yes.
And that diner, I ended up working right near that diner, like, and it burnt down or something.
The diner in Hicksville.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, the house party part was at some mansion in Huntington somewhere.
Another friend of Pat's family.
Interesting.
I mean,
what is the opening line again? Someone from math team or something?
Math Club Dean.
Oh, Math Club.
Yeah,
Dean.
Math Club Dean.
Dean? Math Club Dean?
But for those who want to see it, it is up on YouTube. We were still the Afterlife at the time.
Did you put it up on YouTube?
I put it up.
Nice.
It's on YouTube.
Is there like an Afterlife YouTube channel or A-Life YouTube channel?
It's just mine
with all this stuff.
It's just mine, but there's a bunch of stuff up there.
I'll have to check that out. That's crazy.
Yeah, and we did also shoot for another video, "Forget a Body Bag," but that never got finished. If you
where did we did? But what happened with that?
So it was the photographer Amy Chase who took our group shots.
That's right.
She wanted to shoot a video for us. And I remember, so it was just going to be like kind of like a Beastie Boys, like walking through the city, rapping into the camera type of deal.
Yeah.
And I remember we all met up at the corner where Katz's Deli is in the city. And that same day, Fat Joe was shooting a video in that same corner.
That's right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Full camera crew, like people rolling around in Bentleys. And we're like, of all days, like,
yeah.
Come on.
He totally stole our thunder.
But yeah, so we shot a bunch of footage, but I guess there wasn't enough footage or something. Something went wrong and it never came out.
Yeah. Yeah, that was and we also were featured on a video like concert type of thing.
Oh, yes.
I have a DVD that I forget where it was. It was like in Glen Cove or something like that where we played.
The Rock Lobster, yeah.
The Rock Lobster.
A Long Island music spotlight.
But was it really called the Rock Lobster? Or was that like the name that they gave it when like they had shows?
It was the Boys and Girls Club of.
It was
Glen
like
Head.
the Glen Head, whatever.
Yeah, lots of shows there. But so there's that. We played a few cool shows. We opened up for Arrested Development at the downtown.
That's one of my favorite memories.
That was very cool.
The guy in the chair was there. Yeah, I was at that show.
Yep, hanging out with Speed
Spoon Man.
Yep. We played with them. We opened for Spearhead and Trey Hardison at New Paltz.
Yes. Yep. And we should have opened like for them. Like we should have went on like third to last. They ended up giving us the literal like opening of the show, and like nobody was there yet.
Right.
But
I think I was there for that as well. I went to some show at New Paltz with you, Vito. I came up for that. And I don't remember, like something was in like not a cafeteria, but some big.
We also
space
we were promised to open up for Jadakiss at New Paltz. You guys came all the way up.
Yeah.
And then they told us like we don't have room for you. That was like a straight up hip hop show. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, that was Funk Flex, right? Who was the DJ for that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the kid that put it on like got real cold feet that like he put together this hip hop show and then he was going to bring a bunch of white kids up with guitars and drums and everything. Because it was straight up like rapper DJ come up and like, pass the Cavassier. Like that's what it was all about.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we'll take our 20 grand or whatever.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, this is like 20 years ago at this point, but like, the cultures really weren't meshed like they are now.
Not at all.
It's so different now.
Well, think about around that time when I was in college, what Jay-Z did the live Unplugged with the Roots band. And that was like that was like a big deal. That
groundbreaking.
Yeah. And it's a cool album, but nowadays I think a lot of hip hop shows you can expect to hear live instrumentation.
Yeah.
Lil Wayne holds a guitar.
Does he play it?
No, I just hold it.
Okay.
Or you could go Machine Gun Kelly and just go full pop punk. Forget hip hop altogether,
There you go.
Another Another fun night that I have to bring up, if you remember, is the CC DeVille incident.
Yes.
So this one summer, we had like a residency at this bar called Bogart's near Hofstra University. We played there every Monday night for this one summer. And we're playing the show. And I look over to my left, and there's this.
As you were playing, right?
As I was playing, I see this tall guy with big blonde hair and a Twisted Sister t-shirt on, and he's just rocking out to us. He's loving it.
Yeah.
And like, so at that time, I remember like a couple of years prior that Behind the Music about Poison had just come out. And me and Joe Seattle in particular, always used to quote CC in that because he had so many good lines.
First it was the House of Whores, then it was the House of Horrors.
And Joe was there that night, and I turned to him and I'm like, dude, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Is that CC DeVille? And it was. It turns out Poison was playing Jones Beach the next day, and he was in the hotel across the street, and he was just bar hopping and decided to come into our show, and he loved us.
I'm pretty sure he left with an underage lady that night too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the power.
Dude looks like a lady.
There's the power of being a rock star, right? All the girls we were with flocked to him, wanted to take a picture.
Right. Now, they probably didn't even know who he was.
No,
but...
they had no idea, but it was like, oh, this guy's famous.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now, what was the bar that wasn't Bogart's that you guys played at over there? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Monterey's, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Those were two bars that were notorious for not carding.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of underage stuff.
That's how I was there.
Yeah, we were the oldest ones in the place probably when we played.
I don't think there was like high school kids there, but I'm pretty sure it was like as long as you were like 18 and over, you could get in.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time we played there.
As long as you were senior.
Yeah.
The first time we played there, the owner of the place said like it was the most money he made in a night ever.
When we played?
Yeah. So there you go.
It's pretty cool.
He has a bar across from where the Islanders play, but that's the most money he's ever made.
Right.
I guess college towns factor in heavy to the A-Life story, it seems.
Uh-huh.
I think you're right. And then of course there was
Hempstead being a great college town.
Big time.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. But I there was, of course, I don't know if you were going to get to this, but the tour.
Yeah. That ill-fated tour, which was kind of just like a mini vacation that we played a couple shows.
Yeah, it was basically like going away with the band and playing some shows. I mean, we did have some cool memories from it.
Yeah.
And some terrible memories, like getting stuck in Rockford, New Jersey. What is it? Rockland?
Something like that, yeah. Because we didn't understand diesel engines at the time.
Yeah. That was brutal. But
depressing, yeah.
What didn't you get about the diesel engine? That you have to like plug it in overnight when it's cold or like that kind of thing?
I think there was some sort of blockage in like where the gas went in and like it registered as full, even though it was actually empty.
Okay. But it was not
like, the gun would kick back as if it was full. And we were like, oh, the bus is full. And it wasn't. It was completely empty. There was like some filter that needed to be replaced or something. I think that was the problem.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it took like 3 days to figure out. We had to cancel like at least one show.
Yeah.
That was the MySpace tour. I literally booked that tour just by inviting other bands to swap shows.
Yeah.
Two of which we actually did. They actually did come to Long Island.
Yes, Space Hooker and Third Class.
That's right.
Shout out Third Class. They still follow us on social media.
Who is the band that you guys played with at McCoy's that, I don't know if you remember this, that covered the I Hear the Secrets That You Keep When You're Talking in Your Sleep?
That was Ballistica from Austin.
Were they from Long Island?
They were very good.
They were from Austin, Texas, and they were great.
Okay.
If anyone can track down a Ballistica CD, check that out. They were a cool band.
We met some cool bands along the way.
Yeah.
Because of like our style. I'll say that. Like I always wanted to do a show with that group Wild Bunch.
Yeah, yeah.
They were totally like doing what I felt like we were trying to accomplish.
That was a cool band, yeah. Yeah, for us it was just kind of like, since we were so different and didn't really have a scene. It wasn't like, we were a hardcore band and we could find 20 other hardcore bands throughout the country. We had to find other bands that were like unique and doing their own thing.
Luckily Unsound existed in Lindenhurst, so you could always play with them around.
They came
here.
a little later, yeah. But yeah, that was cool. They were like our little brother band for a while.
Yeah. And they were fun to play with. It was like that's when we had shows that made sense to when we played together.
Yeah, definitely.
Otherwise, it was a lot of times trying to shoehorn into like some kind of scene we didn't fit in, and we did get a lot of like weird looks from time to time.
Yeah, I remember Poughkeepsie. We played a show with all metal bands and
Yes,
almost got into it with some of those kids.
I remember what you played the beginning drum beat to a song. Was it a Slayer song?
Uh,
And you actually got some cheers. I forget
All
what
you got to do is
yeah, the raining blood thing, right? It's like
something like that.
it's like
they were
the dog whistle for
like they were like, all right, we won't beat you up now. You still suck.
Imagine being so mad at a song that you wanted to hurt the people that played the song.
You know what, because we were like, we could be appreciated by people in the scene and outside of the scene too.
Yeah.
I think that was something unique about us. I think like, if somebody was turned off by the scene or just never in it, you could invite them to an A-Life show and they would have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, moving on for that. So, I mean, that band lasted for a long time. We started around 98, 99, and I had left like the last 2 years, I guess.
Yeah, what year did you leave?
I went and joined Hijinks, which became Stealing Jane around 2007, mid 2006.
Okay, so quite a couple years after I graduated.
Yeah.
Because we probably needed to make some kind of really big leap of faith around that 2004, 2005. Like when we had the Stage Ain't Big Enough album, and when we went on the tour, like we probably like that was probably our time to really like just not work and just worry about the band.
Right.
And we just never really did.
Yeah, unfortunately. But okay, so you finished up school, and what were you studying in school?
I studied elementary education.
Okay. And I know you were subbing for a while after you got out.
Just 1 year.
Okay.
I was just 1 year. I worked in Lindenhurst Middle School. I was kind of miserable. I kind of realized I didn't want to be a teacher at that point.
What's it like teaching in a school you went to? Is that a whole bizarre thing?
So bizarre. Because
like you just want to go to your locker and then like sit in a desk and
it's especially weird because it's middle school. Like
right,
everyone's
which is the worst time for everyone.
Exactly, and everyone's got pretty good memories of elementary school, high school. You may not have the best memories of it, but for most people, I think it's something they look back on fondly. But middle school is just such a weird time. A lot of the same teachers were there. You're only there for like those 3 years. Like it goes by so quick. So it was bizarre. But I was a permanent substitute in the ALS room, which was the in-school suspension room for kids with special needs. Gotcha. So it was basically like my two roles there, my two like responsibilities were to get kids to do their work and to behave so that they could not be in there anymore. And that was like exactly the last two things that those kids wanted to do.
Right.
So I had a few garbage cans thrown my way and cursed out a few times.
Professional wrestling taught you how to handle it.
Exactly. That's when I brought out the kendo stick.
Oh man. Okay, so and after that is where you jump right into youth ministry, essentially right after that.
Yeah. So honestly, I started doing youth ministry at a church like as like an intern that same year that I started working at the middle school, and it really happened this way that like I'll never forget that I had a kid in ALS who was so obviously like he fell asleep in ALS, but like it wasn't just like because he was bored. It was just like he was so exhausted, and like I found out about his family life, and I knew like this kid like he lived in like a single home it's like a studio apartment shared with like a bunch of relatives, and like they were partying all night, and like this kid was just like needed to sleep. And I think I remember him saying like he used to like leave his house in the middle of the night just to get away from the noise. And I'm like, I just remember like thinking like, my gosh, these kids need so much more than like arithmetic and science and that like during that time I was doing the youth ministry, and so like that was like I was like I made a conscious decision like if I can do this as a full-time job, I want to do it.
Right. And I think it needs to be said too, like, throughout this entire time, growing up, you're around punk kids who are openly denouncing organized religion as, any chance they could get. And you hung on to being Catholic and just, held on to your faith the whole time. What's your take on that? And like, how did you handle that personally?
Yeah. I mean, so for me, I just, my experience and how I felt, like I, from as long as I can remember, I had faith. Like it's hard for me to put into words, but like anything other than like believing that God is real never ever made any sense to me. I can honestly say it. I've had problems with people who represent the faith. I've had problems with, teachings of organized religion, and what I mean by that is just like that I don't understand it, or but when it comes to just belief in God, it just anything else didn't make sense to me. And I remember a lot of kids walking away from the faith, and I in like high school, and I just remember asking questions. I remember this like kind of feeling in my stomach, like if I'm gonna like leave this, I need to ask questions. And I just remember I was lucky enough to have people in my life that gave me really good answers that I found to be reasonable, and that kind of just stuck with me for the rest of my life to this day, really.
Yeah. And, you never were a preachy person or like trying to force that on anybody. If someone had a question, you would absolutely answer and you would engage. But it wasn't something that you were like trying to change anybody's mind on. It was kind of like you did it the right way, which is living your life and being happy. Mm-hmm. And that will attract people who are curious, I think.
That's the way I've always felt. I mean, very truly, like there were like, I can remember like being asked questions or even being like challenged kind of aggressively in high school by people. And I didn't have the answers. But I always sought them, and I always found the answers reasonable. And my feeling has always been that, I'm not perfect and I need a lot of work. I'm a work in progress. I certainly don't need to be telling people how to live their lives. Though I believe from the bottom of my heart that that what I believe in is true and is the way. I know that God works in his own ways. I believe that. And so as long as I'm being, authentic and real and, throwing Bibles at people is not shout out to Stryper is not my style.
To hell with the devil. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But so like after A-Life, you did a little bit of solo stuff after that under the Sick Pavarotti name. Yeah. Which is a fantastic rapper name, by the way.
I still use it to this day. It's a lot of my usernames.
Yeah. But it seemed to kind of like you were like leaning more towards, okay, I'm gonna get more involved in your career and more in your education and your, getting into theology, and you ended up getting a master's in theology.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I really did. I at some point I really felt like, I don't even know if I consciously like made that decision, but it was there. Like it hit me like this is what I'm called to do, youth ministry and theology. But so I got my master's in theology. I think it took 7 years to do it, but I did because a couple classes here and there at a time.
Right.
I taught theology for a couple of years in a Catholic high school. And actually, until very recently, that's what I did.
You worked for Holy Trinity as well?
I worked for Holy Trinity for 5 years. Yeah. I was their campus minister, planned retreats and service projects and opportunities for the students.
I know you traveled a bunch for work. Any cool memories of trips or places you never thought you'd end up?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the biggest parts of my life has been the experience of going to World Youth Day. which if you're not familiar, World Youth Day happens every 2 or 3 years. It's like a big Catholic party with the Pope. The Pope goes to a city, and I actually went to the last 5, always leading groups. But Sydney, Australia, Madrid, Spain, Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Panama, and Poland. And I mean, honestly, I would have never got to go to those places if it wasn't for my role. And it's just an incredible experience. Another one of those really hard things to put into words, but like quite literally like 2 million or I would say 500,000 to 4 million, depending on where the city was, Catholics, young people, mostly young people. I mean, not the experience. You go to OPH on a Sunday and everybody's got gray hair.
Sure.
But this is like a city, like young people all over the world take over a city. It's amazing, like singing Jesus songs in the streets. It's some of the coolest memories of my life. I met a lot of good friends that way. So,
and when they have a function like that where the Pope is there, they have a big mass, like it's a mass in a stadium essentially.
Yep. So that's actually what it is. It's called World Youth Day, and like that, it's over the course of a week, but it all builds to like a Sunday mass with the Pope. That's either, again, depending on the city, it's been at a racetrack or at a airfield or a park.
So it's essentially the WrestleMania of Catholicism.
Exactly. I love how you found that way to tie it back to wrestling. Yeah, it is, at least as far as young people are concerned. And the week is sprinkled in the week is like opportunities to take some, to learn some lessons in theology, to meet people from all other countries, to experience different types of prayer. But ultimately you camp out on Saturday night, and the next morning the Pope arrives and you have mass with the Pope.
Yeah. And as you mentioned before, like, Catholicism has kind of gone down in popularity with young people as a whole. So what are you hearing from the kids who show up to these events? Like what is their experience as far as like where they live and how they're treated and how they're trying to go about their lives as a Catholic?
Everyone's experience is so different because most people get their faith from their parents, and they either accept it at some point or they don't. And so we usually, when I was working with young people in youth ministry, it was like, especially on Long Island, it was like a lot of cradle Catholics. And a lot of them, the reality is, just because we're Catholic, and I'm talking for myself too, doesn't necessarily mean we're doing it the right way, the way that it's meant to be. I mean, cultural customs take over, and we all know that there's an obligation to go to mass, but like, people are, not going to it because they're going to sports and everything, and they may not even be like fully like culpable of like, where it's really on their radar to like, like they may know like, yeah, in a book somewhere it says you got to go to mass, but like, what does that really mean? So like, it's a bunch of kids in different situations where like some are have these really faithful families, and you're just kind of trying to support how their parents are trying to raise them. Other kids are like, they go to mass on Christmas and Easter, and you're just trying to help them make sense and like, again, give them some of the answers that I was blessed to have received, the good answers, not the bad ones, to see Catholicism not as like a list of no's, but what the benefits and the pluses and the positives of it. And then you do occasionally get kids that are discovered on their own. I mean, I knew kids that had families that never went to church, and they started going to youth group, and they fell in love with it. They found their group of friends, and they went to mass on their own. Like, I had kids that walked to mass by themselves because their parents didn't want to, and then in other cases, parents that started going to mass because their kids did. So everyone's story is different. It really is. And
do you see it at some point becoming like an underground swell thing for kids to do?
I think we've even seen it a little bit. like I could tell you a shift that I saw happen during my time. So, was involved in youth ministry in some respect from like 2005 to just this past summer. And when I started, it was always like it was always like our goal was to like give them an authentic experience of faith before they go to college, because when they go to college, it's when, the ways of the world are going to really catch up to them, and they're going to hear all kinds of different teachings, and like laying that firm foundation so that they go to college, and if they choose to walk away from the faith, at least they know what they're walking away from.
Sure.
And not just like, some, false representation of it. But what I will say is, I think nowadays kids are walking away more younger, and there is kind of a revolution. Like college campus ministry is actually something that's, I wouldn't say thriving, but is like growing. Is, I think Stony Brook University, of all universities, very diverse, public, or private, but not like affiliated with religion. I think they get like 100 kids on a Sunday night for mass, which is pretty big deal. In this day and age, and like the most diverse group of young people you'll ever see, like every nation represented, which is pretty cool. So I think there is something of that. I think it's becoming like some of the, revolutionary stuff from years ago is now like the norm. And so in a way, Catholicism's a little bit revolutionary.
Okay.
That said, we still have our, different spectrums within Catholicism too that are at war. So it's just the way the world is now.
Yeah. And you ended up you were in charge of the entire youth ministry for the entire diocese.
Yeah. So you really did your homework, Vito. I'm impressed.
I read your LinkedIn. Yeah.
So yeah, I was the director of youth ministry for Rockville Center, which is 133 Catholic churches. It was really something of a dream job for me, something I thought would always be cool. And I did that for the last 4 years until we decided as a family it was time to make a move.
And what initially sparked the move to South Carolina?
My wife and I had always talked about moving down south. That had always been kind of a goal for us. I really, the weather, was something we always wanted to move, slower pace, but it really afforded us an opportunity to get a house. We're having a home built that was going to be big enough for our family. When baby number 4 came around, it was like, we gotta do something. We need space for these, because at some point they're going to be 4 teenagers, and so they need some space.
Absolutely.
So we couldn't do it in New York. So
okay.
We originally looked into the Atlanta area. We were going to move to the Atlanta area of Georgia. We kind of got priced out of there because their housing market went crazy. And we had heard some good things about Lexington, South Carolina. And so far, it's been exactly what we're looking for. Just a nice town to raise a family in.
Okay. And so what are you doing for work down there? What's the new position?
Yeah, so it was really tough because, like I said, I never anticipated doing anything but youth ministry. I always felt like that. I really truly felt like that was my calling from God to do. And but I knew I needed something different. In my last job with the diocese, I begun to do some project managing, especially during the pandemic when everything got thrown out the window and we had to kind of like reinvent ourselves. I kind of started to come up with some projects that my office could work on together. And someone said to me, why don't you consider project management? And so I took a project management course. I got certified in project management, low-level certification. But I learned some other ways of working that I got certified in, and applied for a bunch of jobs for about 6 months. And long story very short, I ended up landing a remote job, which is what I was looking for. So I wouldn't be tied down to any particular place, and we could make our move to South Carolina. I work for a company now called Cross Catholic Outreach, and I work in the grants department. So what we do is we our organization partners with Catholic dioceses or religious orders and other organizations in and outside of the Catholic Church that do good works in other countries. Everything from building homes to providing food to medical, sanitation, water, all those kinds of projects. We fund them, and my organization seeks other foundations to partner with us to fund these projects.
Okay. And you're traveling a bunch for that as well?
I haven't started yet, but I will be.
Okay.
So we'll do trips to the countries we work in to see the projects. Our organization has a really strict vetting process for the partners that we work with, because we want to make sure that the money that donors are giving is being spent wisely and prudently, and we want to make sure that we will do aid for countries that, like, a hurricane hits and they just need food, or they just need quick shelter or something like that. We'll do those kinds of projects, but what we really seek to do is like community transformation, where there's a community that is is poor and impoverished and can't find their way out, and we go in and we work with them with their plans to better their community and just fund it and help them turn their entire community around and get a school started and that kind of thing.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's been awesome, actually, because like I said, I always imagined I would do youth ministry, and this is in a way allowing me to still be involved in ministry, but using some different skills I picked up over the years, and it's been great.
All right, so winding down now, we're going to bring it back to Lindenhurst. We're going to play a little game with you, and I'll let John take over.
We're going to play a round of best and worst of the Hearst. I'm going to throw some things at you. You tell me what is the best example of that, and then what is the worst example of that. We always start with pizza. So what is the best pizza place in Lindenhurst? Not currently, obviously, but in your recollection.
Imperial.
Okay. And what would the worst one be?
Pizza Hut. I guess there wasn't a Pizza Hut in Lindenhurst, though, was there?
Babylon. Yeah.
It was West Babylon, technically. And I guess there was one for a while where Taco Bell used to be, right?
Oh, yeah. Maybe.
That eventually turned into Pizza Hut.
But if I'm being honest, I do love that old West Babylon Pizza Hut. Like, I was just talking to my kids about that the other day. Like, they want to try Pizza Hut.
If you read a book, you got a free pizza.
No, there absolutely was a Pizza Hut. There was a small one on Montauk and like a strip of stores.
Yep.
I remember getting breadsticks from there.
I mean, Pizza Hut was a whole different experience when we were kids.
Yeah.
It was a restaurant. It was the fanciest restaurant I ever went to.
The red cups, the waitress who knew your name.
I mean, anything that was on TV and being advertised to us was like a little more special.
Right.
And also the correct answer for worst pizzeria is La Pizzeria. So
I actually I could agree with that. I don't think I ever really cared for their pizza.
Next, as we go more with food, Chinese food. Which was the best Chinese food in Lindenhurst?
Hangs? I'm guessing that's also some people's worst.
No one said that. That's been a couple of people's deaths. No one said it was the worst yet. A lot of people said Dak Li Lao was the worst.
We all heard the rumors about the cats, but my experiences Tangs were always positive.
Yeah, I think that rumor is about every Chinese food place.
It is, but I feel like it especially came up with Tangs.
Oh, well.
Amazing decor. All right. Best playground. Already kind of covered this, but.
Oh, I want to say, didn't Venetian Shores have a pretty good playground?
Yeah.
By the beach? That was pretty cool.
Yeah, they have a water park now.
It's a splash park, man.
Yeah. I mean, we had nothing, though, so it might as well be a water park.
Yeah. I would let them. I welcome the open fire hydrant at the Fireman's Park camp.
I'll say Fireman's Park, I guess.
Okay. And the last one, what was your favorite hangout spot? Where's the place you like to hang out the most?
The Shoe 2, the Vetter. No, I'm just kidding.
The Sneaky Shoe.
The Sneaky Shoe. Oh, my favorite place to hang out was Bailey's Comics.
There you go.
The original
Which
Bailey's
location?
Comics.
Right.
The one right by the train tracks, right off of Hoffman. Middle school walks home. walking home
The
from
Great
school.
Fire of '96 or whatever it was that took it out.
I think it was 90. I think it was it was like, I feel like it was in middle.
I was in
school when it
6th or
happened.
7th grade, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was probably in like 8th grade, but it was a travesty.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember hearing about it in school and thinking about like talking to people and being like, all those comics, all that money, crazy.
Oh, and one more favorite band from Lindenhurst.
Right.
Besides A-Life, of course.
Besides us.
Right.
I really, really, really liked Step Lively.
All right.
I have to say, I think I really enjoyed them. They were different. I wish they stuck around. But
we talked to Mark a few weeks ago, and I told him I was always team Step Lively over Edna's Goldfish. And I don't know if it was me just being a homer, but not that Edna's didn't have people from Lindenhurst in it. But
I mean, Edna's was great, but I always I mean, don't get me wrong, they were awesome. But there was something about Step Lively that was just very different. And Mark wrote
his name is
lyrics.
Jay Orig, but
but Mark wrote great lyrics. I'll say that.
Hell yeah!
Cool. All right, that brings us to our last question. We've got very wildly different answers to this with every guest.
Okay.
But if you could describe Lindenhurst to somebody who'd never been there, what would you tell them?
I would tell them. I would say that it was not the weakest, but not the toughest either. I guess what I mean by that is like
the in-betweenest.
Yeah. We were not as cool as we thought we were, but we were not half as lame as a lot of other places. I mean, is that accurate?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I like, and certainly something for everybody.
Yeah.
Lindenhurst was a cool town to grow up in. It was super fun to it was a great town to just be around. I mean, I remember like Halloween, like, up and down Wellwood Avenue, trick-or-treating at stores and stuff like that. And a lot of great memories there. It was a fun town to grow up in. We were not as hardcore and as hard as some other towns were, but we certainly we had an edge to us all the same.
Right on. Well, Nolan, my friend, thanks so much for coming on. This was fun.
Yeah, and thank you for having me.
Continue doing the good work out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys. This was a blast, and I look forward to listening to some of our other friends on upcoming episodes.
Tomorrow, but I live for the now. Got some goals in mind and I'm writing them down. I'm sick of small time hustles and hanging around, so I leave all that to all the rest of you clowns. Unbelievable how we can work so hard, dead tired, broken down, looking physically scarred, and still make a wish on a rising star. No, we gotta get better if we made it this far. Feeling by far, you're the best man for the part, or you wrote a new song and it came from the heart. It really ain't much, but at least a start. Possibly the one match that's providing the spark. Stop dead in the tracks like a poisonous dart. Damn, this whole game is such a poisonous art. Gotta be smart, gotta get ahead of my class. I'm phased and unbothered by the ghosts of my past. If this is my chance, I'll be making it last.